Hello everyone, welcome to TMP. We are back once again with more Fire Emblem 4, Genealogy of the Holy War. It's Mr. A and X Death as always.
Right.
Except for yesterday. Or this morning really, when it was Null and Trigger Tortoise.
That's right. I joined that one too.
Oh,
At the
okay.
time.
I wasn't aware that you joined it. Yeah, it was by the guy who made Thomas
we each
Alone.
read different characters. It was like little. Yeah, it was subsurface something. Some kind of train with robots on it.
Right, so last time we played this, we just started the game off and played the first couple of chapters. And kind of explained a little bit about the different mechanics of this game in comparison to the very first Fire Emblem, which we had previously covered. The biggest one being that it is even more important to be on a horse in this game than it already was in that one. Partially because of something I didn't explain, which is these roads, where if you pass through a road, you actually gain movement. Like, if you move along roads, you can move further than you possibly could otherwise. Okay. Whereas other types of terrain in Fire Emblem only have like a movement cost. And what this means is that if you have larger movement to begin with, the amount of squares you can progress, like gain from moving over roads in a given turn is even more extreme, and consequently, like characters that are not on a horse just get left really, really far behind. And we ended off last stream in kind of a difficult position because I was trying to recruit the character Beowulf, but we had this formation here where Beowulf is behind both the boss and an armored knight, who each of whom is quite difficult to kill. And furthermore, he has the recruitment condition that you have to give him 10,000 gold. And the way gold works in this game is actually also different, where every character has their own individual gold amount. So you can see here Quan has 9,000, which is just shy of what one would need to recruit Beowulf. And the only characters I have who have above 10,000 gold are Sigurd and Alec.
Okay, so you kind of have to bring them?
Well, I found a way to solve it, which it was kind of difficult because I couldn't find a way to, like, kill both the boss and the armor knight and also have either Sigurd or Alec, like, free still. I think Alec is actually out of range to even talk to Beowulf.
Okay.
And so when I was experimenting with it, I found that the AI for this group of enemies, including Beowulf, is really, really random. And Beowulf's AI was like highly suicidal and would usually attack whoever my most powerful unit is that would be like most likely to kill him. So I tried baiting him with my archer and he would go for like Sigurd or something instead. So it was really hard to like pass a turn and get him. And the way that I figured out to do it that works is you can use the give command. So money is like exclusive to a given unit, but if two people are married, they can share their money. So I can have Ethlyn give her money to Quan to get him above 10,000 so that he can recruit Beowulf, and that's how I have to do it.
Alright, complicated loophole.
Yes. Now, the only exception to this rule, like, you can normally only give your money to your spouse, but the exception to this rule is the thief class, of which we only have Do right now, the little, like, 14-year-old blonde kid. And he can give his money to anyone he wants. And he also, when he attacks somebody, steals their money. So this actually makes him... His combat sucks absolute, like, cock, but he's a really, really valuable utility unit for this reason.
Okay.
By the way, Mr. A, I'm getting a lot of, like, pickup from your mic. I don't know what it is, though. This do is especially useful on the ranked run, because it's the first Fire Emblem game to introduce a ranking system that judges how well you did at the end of the game. And to get the best rank, like every Fire Emblem game, you're kind of judged by how much EXP your units gain, whether or not anyone dies, how well you do in combat in general, and how much money you have. But to get the best EXP ranking, you have to get absolutely every character in the game to the max possible level, which just turns it into an absolute slog of incredibly slow-paced and long and tedious grinding, and also makes it very useful to have Duke to throw money around to get certain resources onto every single unit in turn.
I see.
So he's like the most important character of all in the ranked run. But I will never do a ranked run in my life because it sounds unbelievably tedious.
kind of similar to the origins of the like thief class in D&D, where it was like it was just like too useful to never not have one.
Yeah.
For certain things like like lock picking and stuff, but wasn't especially good at combat.
Will do in this game still will have the problem that he is a non-mounted unit and then therefore tends to lag behind everyone else. And so he oftentimes can't even reach any enemies to steal money from them. But it's a good idea to have him go around collecting the gold from the town so that he can distribute it, somewhat freely. Right. The limitation is that when you use the give command, you give all of your money to the other character no matter what.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
You can't just give part of it. Yes. Just like that one East Asian culture, if you compliment somebody's possessions, they just have to give them to you.
Yeah. East African. Or
yes, my
West.
Mistake.
Which way? West, yeah. I always get them mixed up.
Yeah, Asia, Africa, they will start with A. Alright, so we can end this turn. Yes, and a couple of fun characters joined our party at the end of the previous stream. One of whom I commented on, that being Raquesis, of course, the very well-translated character, who starts out kind of crappy but can promote into a Master Knight, which allows her to use every single type of weapon in the game, which is neat. And then the other one is Lewyn, who is a bard, which is basically just a mage. He casts wind magic right now, but later on in the game he has like holy blood, so he can get a legendary wind tome, and then he becomes like the most ridiculous nuke possible. It will just absolutely destroy anything he even gets in range of. Yes, so we'll look forward to seeing him do that. So here's the AI behavior I was talking about before, where the enemy mercenaries here are all just kind of attacking my guys who have brave weapons equipped, which basically guarantees that they'll get killed on the counterattack. So kind of weird. Most Fire Emblem games, the AI just attacks whoever they do the most damage to. This game seems to work a little differently from that.
Yeah.
Guess I just realized I have forgotten to put up a Discord stream, so that's not good.
Right.
I rectified this terrible mistake.
It's not a huge deal for this game. It's kind of turn-based, but you can't miss the music.
It doesn't have the most phenomenal soundtrack ever made in a game or anything.
Sure.
Oh yeah, and the boss that I just killed drops the Paragon ring, which when you have that in your inventory, you get double experience. So it's very important to, and it costs $40,000 to buy back. Like, so that being the way you exchange items between characters in this game. So it's important to choose a good character to kill that boss with, so they can make use of it. I gave it to Finn, which I think is pretty good. Finn is a good character to level up for reasons that will be explored later.
Are there any Fire Emblem games that have, like, is the soundtrack ever kind of stand out? Or is that just, you have just like decent music?
Well, they all have the same composer.
Okay.
I think mostly they have good music, but I can't really think of any individual Fire Emblem game where the music stands out as being really good. Okay. Really great.
Good, but not amazing.
I think Fire Emblem Awakening, which is otherwise not that good of a Fire Emblem game, has some pretty strong tracks in it.
Okay.
So that might be one of the better nominations. So I think that's most of what catching up I can do on Fire Emblem for now. So we talked a lot about my hobbies over the last week on the last stream, but we didn't really talk much about what you have been doing.
That's true. I've been playing some games. I played a lot of Yakuza Kiwami 2, which I'm almost done with, and then I'll probably move on to Judgment, which we briefly mentioned, which is a kind of a spin-off where you're not playing as a Yakuza, you're playing as a detective.
Yes.
Man, I'll probably do that until I get burnt out on the series and stuff. But because next up on Yakuza is Yakuza 3, which I probably won't even do that much, so I'll take a little hiatus from the Yakuza series before doing that. And then played a lot of Mechwarrior 5, which is fun. Big robots, blowing up other robots. I grew up playing a lot of the Mechwarrior games, like 2 and 4, I think, like way back in the day. So those are always a good time. You like kind of customize, get different mechs and customize them with all different weapons and little stuff. It's pretty fun. And then I started playing Hades.
Yes.
It's quite good.
Super giant games or super massive games, whichever one it is, made that.
I also don't remember, but one of those big games, super big games, and it's really good. It's not, I think we talked about it before, where like I really didn't have much interest in it. It's not really my type of game, but it's just like really, really fluid and pretty short. Like each run is fairly short, so it's really easy to. It really gives me that like one more turn feeling. I finish a run, it's like I was gonna stop, but I could just go again, And then like 20 minutes later, I'm like, well, I was gonna stop, but let's try another one. So that's always, I think, a good sign for a game to make you want to keep playing it. And then like I know we kind of complained about games like I know Fallout, like the devs bragged about how much dialogue is in the game, and Hades kind of had the same thing. It's like novels worth of dialogue, but I think what's more interesting than the amount of dialogue is how well it's implemented. Where there's just so many little things that characters can say to you based on events in the game, like really very specific ones. Like when you beat the game, you can add difficulty to it by imposing a time limit, by giving bosses new abilities, that kind of thing, and by doing that, you unlock new upgrades. So like it's necessary to increase the difficulty, but you can choose exactly how you do it. Like say if you don't mind having a time limit, you can move through it fast. You can use that one. And like one boss, I gave her a new ability, and then I took it off, and she like commented on that, or like the main character Zagreus will comment on certain mini bosses that if the player struggles with, which like there was a certain one I struggled with, like he makes a comment on that. And so like there's so many little triggers that make it feel very immersive and dynamic and kind of alive, which is really neat. So I like that.
True.
And
Bastion was kind of the beginning of their like emphasis of that thing in games.
Yeah.
And that was also their first game. Because the narrator would comment on some fairly specific actions that you would do in that.
Yeah, and I haven't played Transistor, but I guess I would guess that it probably has similar, because that is kind of one of their strengths. And then Hades is the culmination so far, at least.
I like Bastion much more as a game, though.
Compared to Transistor?
Compared to Hades.
Oh, okay. Have you played much Hades?
Yeah.
All right.
I played a decent amount of it. I beat Hades, like I killed him. I think only once or twice though.
Okay, I think you need to do it 10 times for the true ending.
Yeah.
So I'm working towards that.
I was so fucking done with the game way before then. I do feel that the story pace is the big problem of the game, where because you keep dying and having to start the run again, and you only get like one little bit of dialogue with each character for each time you do that, I just felt like it took fucking forever for anything in the story to go anywhere. So that was my big issue.
Yeah, I get that. I don't mind it. I'm really enjoying it, but I can certainly understand the frustration with that kind of thing. I'm definitely not gonna I have a friend who I was surprised to learn 100% all of the like relationships, which would have taken fucking forever. So I'm definitely not doing that. But I'm at least gonna get the true ending, I think, and then maybe just keep it on my repertoire. It's a quick little thing to play every now and then.
Yeah, I tried to play it like I played it once and I didn't even finish, like, beat Hades, and then I played it a second time and beat him like once, but I really don't think I will ever like the game nearly enough to beat him 10 times.
Sure. Yeah, it definitely, like, that's kind of how I felt the first time, and it felt a little slow and like not so fluid. Like once you, at least for me, and I'm not saying this like changed your mind, but what helped me was once I found like a good like build for each weapon, like you can blow through rooms in like 5 to 10 seconds and just like zip through it, and it feels good to me at least when you can do that. Um, so that's like, and one thing I like about it, because it really is very much like a Diablo type game. Like Diablo started that type of genre, action RPG. But one thing I like about it more than Diablo is the in Diablo, like maybe you come across a fun build, but like the math just doesn't work out. Like I feel like Diablo is almost more restrictive with the higher difficulties, whereas Hades, maybe because the game is just naturally somewhat easier, um, or I guess it's a better balance of easy and challenge, where it's not like in Diablo, like enemies are challenging just because they do insane damage or because they have too much health. Whereas in Hades, like a lot of the challenge just comes from for me at least, like the variety of bosses, move sets, and that like enemies aren't usually that tough. They just like chip away at you until you get to the bosses, which are all really unique, and you can make them more unique with the additional like abilities you can give them. But you just, for me, like I feel like you have much more freedom to experiment with fun builds as opposed to worrying about like it's like what the exact meta build is, which is always what I kind of felt playing Diablo 3.
Yeah, I fucking
maybe that's not the case for everyone, but yeah, I don't really like it either. I played it with friends, and that was like fun as an experience, but I would never play the game alone, really.
I thought it was so boring. I think the gameplay, like the feeling of the gameplay and all that stuff is good in Hades. It just goes on for too long. That's my big problem with it.
Yeah, and like there's not a huge amount of enemy variety, so it can get repetitive. Like every time I go through, it's like, oh, this room again, which I don't mind, but I can definitely understand. I mean, it does lack variety in that sense.
It's definitely a lot of repetition for the sake of getting through the story.
I was actually pleased to learn that you only had to kill Hades 10 times. Like the way the game is put together, it makes you feel like there's a lot more repetition that's required, which I guess there is if you want to like get all the dialogue from everyone, but I feel like it's made for you to not do that and just like get the dialogue you get, and it feels a little more natural that way. And like the only exception to that would probably be the getting the true ending and getting all the dialogue from Persephone, or spoilers, I guess, but yeah, for the character you find at the end of the game.
Yes, your mom.
Your mom, yes. I guess even saying Hades is the last boss is technically a spoiler, but
hardly.
I mean, I know, but like the game treats it as a surprise, but it could have been I don't know, anybody. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. But yeah, I've been enjoying that off and on. And then I guess I wasn't quite finished with Mechwarrior. I had tried to beat the game a few times, and I think I was just kind of like stopped when I got to a certain point. I think I got stuck on a certain mission and gave up. And now I've been like trying to like beat the campaign, just to be done with it, just to have experienced it finally. But they released a new DLC like yesterday that blew up half my mods. So I gotta wait for those to update before I can finish the game.
Oh,
the other option is to restart, but I'm not restarting it again. I'm not replaying those like first 3 missions again. So sick of them. So not a big deal, because the devs actually released like a pre-build version to the like big mod makers to give them a head start, which is kind of a cool idea. So shouldn't be too long. In fact, most of them are already updated, but that's kind of what's put me off. That put me back in the arms of Yakuza 2. I was kind of taking a break from that.
I see.
But that's basically, I think, all I've been up to. So you've been watching a lot of anime. I've been playing a lot of games. And then we did get together briefly to watch a movie.
Oh yeah.
Continuing our J-horror experience.
We watched the American version of Dark Water.
Yeah.
And what a movie that was.
Definitely one of the movies ever made.
It certainly was.
Although some people have a much better opinion of it.
Yeah, so we watched the Japanese version a while back, which wasn't particularly good.
Mhm.
It was I don't know, just kind of lame.
Yeah, it had some interesting stuff in it that we both kind of wished were explored more than the ghost, which was really kind of not
Yeah,
interesting.
I guess both versions of the movies have this aspect of being kind of a divorce drama as much as a like horror movie.
Hmm. And it's like, like even having the mundane explanations be the problem would have been maybe more interesting. Like in the American movie, the apartment above the lady's apartment kept getting flooded because you know I guess that family left their taps on, or the ghost did it. I was never really
There's
clear
supposed to
on
be
that.
rascally children or something that kept running in, and
Yeah, that's what the explanation. That's what
that's
they
what the
keep
guy
saying.
says, but it's
I
probably
thought that'd be more
not that.
interesting if they had to deal with like rascally children instead of like the ghost. I don't know. I just found the ghost boring.
Maybe it's partially because it's the same type of ghost as it already was in both The Ring and The Grudge.
Yeah, and it's based on a story by the author of the Ring,
That's true, yes.
Suzuki uh, Koji. Yes, Koji Suzuki Koji, depending on where you're from.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, yeah, and I mean, I guess both those stories have the explore different like struggles and characters through the supernatural. Like kind of unlike the Grudge, the supernatural is not so much the focus necessarily. But in the Ring, I felt like the supernatural stuff worked mainly because it kind of stayed out of the way. Whereas in Dark Water, it kind of got in the way, at least for me, right? It was like, oh, right, the ghost is here again. It's like I'm really not that I'm especially interested in it, but I'm more interested in like the relationship with the girl and the mother and the crazy father in the American
Yeah.
one. Um, I don't know, but one thing I'll say is for all of the American ones, it makes me appreciate the Japanese one more. So even like we didn't like the Japanese Grudge, but I like it more now that I've watched the American one.
Yeah.
And same for Dark Water. I was like, we kept pointing out like, the Japanese one did this exact thing better, which you wouldn't have really stopped to think about without having the comparison. So
Yeah. It doesn't really make you, that's kind of the one interesting thing you glean from watching the American versions is it gives you slightly more appreciation for the Japanese ones.
yeah,
I am looking forward to Pulse because I think it'll be well, I'm just sure that they'll just like take everything, all the existential aspects out of it, and that'll be fun to bash at least.
yeah, that's I remember seeing the trailer when it came out, like whatever that was, like forever ago, the 2000s, and like the trailer just made it look like a very generic, like jump scary ghost hands coming out of the screen
Yeah.
type of thing. Whereas, again, in the Japanese one, that was kind of the less interesting stuff. Again, the ghosts were a vehicle for this, like, I don't know, examination of the human condition or something. So we shall see. I expect to be very disappointed, but I guess if you expect that, you can have fun with it, like you said. So,
Yeah.
well, the American Dark Water did surprise me by having some. It had Tim Roth in it, some bigger name actors,
Oh
and
yes. Yeah. The
and
actors were definitely interesting casting decisions were made.
right, John C. Riley, the comedian, the guy from for any viewers watching from like Step Brothers, playing alongside Will Smith, or Dr. Steve Brule from the Tim and Eric skits was in the movie playing I wouldn't not really like a serious role. Like it's not a comedy movie. He played kind of a flummoxed, gambling addicted apartment manager. Um,
Yeah, kind of an unusual role for him.
yeah, I thought he did fine. I think you and my other friend didn't like him very much at all, but I think he was a good.
It was mainly just like my, I guess, bias of other movies I have seen him
Yeah,
in before, rather than
right.
him being in any way noticeably not good or a problem with Dark Water.
Yeah, he wasn't like standout, but I thought he was.
There's a
he
long
did a
list
really
of
nice
problems
cast.
with that movie, but John C.
Right.
Reilly isn't at the top of it or anything.
No. And then there was Tim Roth as the lawyer working out of his car, who I think we all actually agreed was probably the best character.
Probably.
So that's something you know there was no such character in the well, there was that character in the Japanese version, but he wasn't as interesting. So I'll give that. That's one plus.
I think that basically comes entirely from Tim Roth, but I guess the cab thing was also a little bit interesting. The fact that he was both a lawyer and a taxi driver.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And yeah, the ending sucked like way more.
Yeah, that's one of the most significant changes. Is in the Japanese version, the ending is like a decade and a half later or something.
Oh, even before that. But yeah, you're right. But I mean, even before that, like the way that the mom chooses to adopt the ghost girl is just so out of nowhere in the American one. Whereas that Japanese one, they make it more clear, like how she's coming to this realization to save her daughter. And then, yeah, what you're talking about is even worse, where the American one, the Japanese one, the girl grows up and comes back to that apartment later to talk to her ghost mom who's still there. It's kind of this element of closure. But in the American one, they're just like, I think they just
cuts to like a couple months later or something.
Yeah, she's like
that.
living with the dad who had a complete personality change because he was like a complete asshole. Like in the Japanese one, he was just like kind of a bit of an absent father, but it's not out of the question that he could take care of the daughter. Whereas the American one, it's like I wouldn't trust.
He was like screaming at the mom every scene he was in until like the last scene when he suddenly became chill. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it just got his personality got fixed and his antidepressants kicked in, and he started taking care of the girl, and then they're just like, yes, it's clear the mother died. That's the closure, I guess. The girl's like, okay, and they just leave. So, yeah, pretty lame.
Yeah, does the daughter even see the ghost mom again in that version of the movie?
I don't think so. I think
she's coming down or the elevator or something, and there's like a scene in the elevator.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think she does talk to her briefly, or just like give her a hug or something in the elevator. Yep. So she does kind of just. Yeah, and that scene works so much worse because like in the Japanese one, the girl is old enough to like be able to, like, can you imagine that little girl just being like, the mom's just like, you'll never see me again, and the girl's like, okay, I'm going with daddy now. This doesn't work. She'd be like hysterical, I guess. I don't know kids that well.
I'm not really a child psychologist either, or an expert in child psychology.
Safe to say, as a child psychology layman, that a child would be more upset at losing their mother.
They might just not really get what's going on.
Maybe. Well, that's the thing. That scene implies that she understood. Like the viewer is meant to get closure from that. Which is again why it only works in the Japanese version, where she's a grown ass, at least a teenager.
Yeah, yes. So to interrupt the discussion for a moment, we did see quite a few cutscenes there in Fire Emblem for a minute. So we just captured a normal enemy base, and then that same old guy from the previous stream who came after the very first map and talked to Sigurd and dubbed us a Holy Knight of the Kingdom or something like that, showed up and told us about apparently the war in YIIK is going fine, which is the war our dad is fighting on the other side of the continent. And then he told a story about how the prince of Grandmel Kingdom is having trouble. Like, his retainers are kind of trying to get him to produce an heir, and they're having trouble because he's still hung up on a previous lover he had, who he kind of like was in a tryst, I guess, with her, and then her original lover killed himself, and then that woman disappeared. And it was also that woman is the mother of Arvis, who we met previously. He's the guy who gave Sigurd his silver sword and had high stats. And then this knight named Fury, or in the Japanese version and the original, like the oldest English translation, his name is Fury, but in this one it's Fairy. And then in the phone game it's something completely different. She showed up and apparently she's looking for Lewyn, and the like bad guy Augustria told her to that we were going to execute Lewyn in our castle, and so now she's going to go attack our castle. So,
Okay.
How devious of him.
Yes. False flag operation.
Yes. He tries to sort of get rid of two problems at once by sicking her on us.
Mm-hmm. Two birds with one stone, as they say.
Yes.
Where that saying came from? Like, why would you throw stones at birds?
Doesn't seem like a
cruel.
particularly effective way to kill birds if you felt that you needed to do that.
Right.
Maybe back when people used slings as a weapon.
Could be, yeah, sling at like kill like a quail or something with a sling. I guess that works. That's probably it.
Or maybe like a bird that was threatening the grain storage of your country.
Yeah. Fair.
Who knows?
I'm gonna find out one day.
You probably find out
Okay.
now if you really wanted to.
Let's see. Origin from the mid 1600s. Oh, it's a phrase from Daedalus and Icarus. Apparently, which is not from the 1600s. The other more likely origin is from the Proverbs of John Haywood from 1546, where it appears as follows: "I will learn to stop two gaps with one bush." So not exactly the bird thing, but
No.
okay. Well, that doesn't really answer the question.
It really doesn't. I guess nobody quite knows.
Guess so. Yeah, that's the only answer. Oh well. Well, I mean, I think that's all I really had to say about American Darkwater. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Just the reviews, I think. There were two letterbox reviews that interested me, the one of which I posted, and the other one was regarding the performance of the main character.
Okay.
It's also like the highest rated letterbox review or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I see it.
Yes, could you read the text of that out for me?
I will. The review is by Rach. Rach Coffee.
Yes.
My girl Jennifer acts her socks off, and I'm like, but bitch, this is just another J-horror remake. What's with all the effort? But I guess she can't help being fabulous. Okay.
Yes.
I don't think I disagree. She does act her socks off. She does a lot of acting, you know.
That's true. The quantity of acting is definitely high.
Yes, exactly. There's a high quantity of acting from her. You may remember when we talked about notable actors. I didn't mention
Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Connelly. Yeah, I couldn't think of her last name. Connelly. That's saying Lawrence.
That's a different Jennifer. Yeah. There are many Jennifers. There's Jennifer Lopez.
Oh yeah, J-Lo.
She's the one who's still Jenny from the block, right? Despite the rocks that she's got.
Yes. Exactly. Maybe if she was in this movie, it would have been more interesting.
That might have been funnier.
Might have been funnier, exactly.
Have you seen the South Park concerning her?
I don't think so.
Cartman, puts a little bit of nail polish on his hands, look like a lipstick, and then says that he's Jennifer Lopez. Like his hand is Jennifer Lopez.
That's good.
And then he just has like a really racist Mexican voice for her and keeps singing about how he loves tacos and burritos.
Classic.
It's a good episode.
That's the type of hard-hitting commentary we expect from South.
Yes, exactly.
I usually tend to like their just more stupid episodes.
Yeah, usually they're funny.
Yeah, they do have some good ones as far as being deep, as far as South Park goes. But,
yeah, like the ones where Stan has depression.
Right, yeah. I like that one with they have that racist flag. And
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, they're called out for being racist, and in the end
they hold a debate to decide whether the flag should be changed, and the kids just don't even really think of the aspect that it's a black guy getting hanged.
Right, they just like wouldn't even see the color.
And then they change the flag so it's like still somebody getting hanged, but everyone's a different race and like it's all
Yeah, that's
different
right.
color
Well,
people.
that was the issue. Like the fact that somebody was being lynched wasn't the problem. It was the races involved,
Yes.
which is also part of the joke, I guess.
There are a couple instances of South Park taking a sort of principled and one could even say brave stance on things, like when there was the whole like Muslims were threatening to blow up everybody who showed Muhammad, and then South Park's
Oh, yeah.
response to that was just like, "Fuck you, we're gonna show Muhammad then."
Yeah, there was a lot of. I mean, around that time, there was a lot of artists kind of coming out in that way and protesting against that event. And drawing Muhammad.
Yes, there was like a National Draw Muhammad Day thing to protest
yeah.
it.
Yep. Those iconoclast terrorists. I don't know.
And there was another one that was kind of like that too for South Park, but I can't remember. I'm having trouble remembering what the specific case is, where it was also like every other studio chickened out on some issue in South Park. Oh, the China one, kinda. A couple seasons back, they just like pretty much deliberately got banned in China, and it did work. They did get banned in China.
Cool.
Because they made a whole episode like lampooning the fact that American media corporations now just have to pander to the Chinese government.
Yeah.
Make their content safe for the Chinese government.
Very true. Although it's happening less and less now, fortunately, because the Chinese government has proven untrustworthy with like allowing American media in, even when they get their dicks sucked like so extensively. So
yeah,
but it's still going on. It's still annoying.
It's kind of cringe, really.
Mm-hmm.
It is P cringe, I'd say.
P cringe, yes. Peak cringe, even.
Yes.
Oh my god, there's so many. I'm just looking at like more reviews on Letterboxd of Dark Water. There are so many like pretentious ones.
That's interesting. Why would
This guy's like? Oh, sorry.
Why would you be pretentious about American Dark Water?
Maybe it's just like, you get a lot of upvotes or whatever. Like this dude is like, every time I see A24's horror movies get praised, I roll my eyes because this movie did the same thing 10 years earlier and a billion times better. It's like, okay.
If you say so.
Sure, yeah. Whatever you say, dude. Treats the drama and audience with respect and skill.
That is such a fucking scorching hot take. Like, fucking American Dark Water is better than like The Lighthouse.
Yeah, holy shit.
I think that might be part of it. It's like easier to farm up votes with a hot take.
I think so, yeah. I guess so. The guy even admits, he's like, this movie doesn't even have a cult following, so he's not even. I mean, he has 72 likes though, so there's enough people who enjoy the hot.
I think the observation I had with the Jennifer Connelly review that I forgot to mention was
yeah.
I think there are some people on Letterboxd and stuff who have like an impetus to celebrate women no matter what, and so sometimes it leads to them just like it feels a little bit forced, like like, oh, Jennifer Connelly, knocked it out of the park. It's like, I don't really know. I feel like her performance was kind of mid. Celebrate women when what they're doing is actually really good, but if you just force it, it just kind of comes off as insincere or something.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for them. Maybe they really did think that Jennifer Connelly was just, amazing in the movie, but
she says in her comments, she's like, she conveys so much in her expressions without saying a single word. Yeah, that's acting. What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, like, that's good that she did that, but she's just the best at having expression. It's kind of her job.
She uses her face to express herself.
Yeah, she did her job in that movie to a satisfactory, I guess, degree. Anyway, whatever. I'm not even. Yeah, I'm not even trying to bash Jennifer Connelly.
No,
Weird thing to gush
she was
about for this
okay.
movie. Yeah, she's fine. I actually like the girl. I thought the little girl actress was good for a young child actress.
Yeah.
Like she didn't. Maybe it was just good directing where they didn't have her do anything that was outside of her skill set. I never was like
Maybe.
that kid's awful, because that does happen.
Yeah, I feel like it was like a time period thing almost, where there was a period of a lot of really bad child actors in mainstream movies, and then they seem to have figured it out a little bit better.
Yeah, they replaced him with CGI. So.
I think that's mainly dogs that they do that too.
Yeah.
Have there been any movies with CGI children? I know there have been some movies with like dolls instead of babies, like the American Sniper, I think it was.
Yeah, that
had
famous scene. I mean, yeah. Well, only with the rest of the movie being CGI, like Polar Express. I don't know about.
Yeah. Were the kids in Polar Express voiced by actual children, though? I think they were.
I don't know. Polar Express movie. Let's find out.
They were actually just voiced by Tom Hanks, like everyone else in the movie.
Starring Tom Hanks.
Yeah, Tom Hanks is like Santa Claus and the main conductor of the Polar Express, and I think the grown-up version of the narrator, and like two other characters on top of that.
Okay. Some of the actors listed on Wikipedia were children at the time, so looks like at least some of the kids were voiced by kids.
For movies, they usually do. It's more of a TV show thing where they have the grown woman doing a boy's voice.
It's just easier to work with adults. Like kids have so many.
And it also has to do with the like need for them to maintain the same voice for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Bart Simpson had been voiced by an actual little boy like Charlie Brown, they'd have to have swapped his actor a million times like they did with Charlie Brown throughout the various specials.
Right.
Which I guess wouldn't necessarily be that big of a problem, but it's good that he's been able to have the same voice for the whole time, I guess.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it just becomes a little bit. I know it's just once or twice. The anime does it a lot too, with little boys being played by women, and sometimes they'll do like a certain line or like a certain emotion they'll try to convey, and it'll really sound like a woman doing an impression of a boy instead of an actual boy, and so it can be distracting when it's like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
It depends on the individual actress and everything like that.
The directing in there, all that. Yeah. I guess it is like maybe unique to this movie with like the fact that there's like a kind of a small number of like highly focused characters that the movie focuses on heavily, that like however the acting is, which the actresses stand out more, which is why people are commenting on them more. Like in The Grudge, there were just so many like characters, and there was no like, opportunities for some heavy acting.
The Grudge would be the extreme counterpoint of it, I guess, because of the almost anthology story structure of that movie.
Yeah.
But The Ring had like basically the two main characters the whole time.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, The Ring. I mean, maybe that's just what Koji Suzuki likes, is just having a few people to follow throughout.
I feel like most movies kind of tend to focus more on one or two or a small cast of main characters, and it's not that many movies that do the big ensemble cast thing.
That's true.
That was more just a special characteristic of The Grudge.
It's more of like maybe what I'm thinking of. Maybe this isn't really the case, but like you get all the characters basically at the start, and then like that's who remains throughout, right? I don't know how to like phrase that in a better way. Like in a lot of movies, you'll have that's not even the case for The Ring. I'm just making shit up. Never mind.
Yeah, if anything, it's more the case in Darkwater, because like the lawyer doesn't get introduced until a significant portion of the way into the film, and I think the same thing goes for I guess nobody else really besides him.
Yeah, just the lawyer. That's what I was thinking. I anticipated your counter argument, but then I realized I didn't have an argument to counter. So. Well, we can if you want. I can read the review you posted on just to wrap up our brilliant Dark Water discussion.
Okay, I think now is a good enough time for that. Yeah.
Sure. This is our long-awaited return to criticism critique. So we read a review by Nomenclature, who gave the movie 5 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd. They say, I think this film's middling reputation has to be a result of it being misunderstood. I would like to submit that Dark Water is actually great, but it's not really a horror film. It's slow, boring, near plotless, and not really scary at all. So far, that's true. It follows a typical ghost story format, but doesn't really have any fright scenes. Nothing really happens. This whole thing is just atmosphere, building suspense, establishing backstory on characters who aren't particularly interesting, and watching a woman take pains to care for her daughter. The thing is, though, this is all very important to the highly unexpected ending that in no way conforms to how these movies usually go. I think it's one of the most impacting twist endings I've ever seen, in that it tricks you into thinking you're watching a generic horror film that's going to end predictably, and then completely pulls the rug from under you in a way that manages to carry deep emotional resonance. So I can see why people would hate this if they wanted something more conventional and exciting. I wasn't crazy about it either until I took it all in. I don't think that's the proper way it should be judged. As should become abundantly clear as the story goes on, the water is an overt metaphor for something that later makes all the uneventful sloshing around incredibly meaningful. Aside from all that, it's also very visually engrossing if you love rain and moodiness, perfectly capturing a dreary New York waterfront and the desolation core of brutalist housing projects on Roosevelt Island. There's a touch of sardonic humor as well. John C. Reilly shines as a wheedling building manager. Many of his attempts to talk up the property value of the haunted apartment are quite amusing. There's kind of a Kafka-esque approach to suspense here. Anyone who's lived in apartments their whole life is familiar with the continuous runaround of filing a maintenance request. Finally, a terror that I can relate to. This currently has a 28% audience approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which makes me laugh because I assume these are all horror fans saying totally sucks as a horror flick, when in actuality it's a sophisticated psychological drama. This is probably the greatest of all time unofficial Lifetime movie. I don't expect that to be appreciated by anyone who want another version of The Ring. So that's it.
That's the end
I'll
of
say I agree with the
text.
first part where he just goes on and on about how boring and uneventful and uninteresting all the characters
Oh, I
are. That's true.
highlighted that review because it's the first review I've seen in a while where when I finished reading it, I was like, wow, that guy, this review writer is a fucking tool.
Yeah. Yes.
Because of this, there's very much a smugness to the way that he's like, oh, everyone who doesn't like this movie must have misunderstood it, and it wasn't given enough appreciation by the plebeian horror fans who wanted something more like The Ring and all that type of shit. But I think what the problem of this review comes back to is the same thing that the same drum that we've been beating the whole time we've been doing criticism critique, which is that you need to provide explanation and examples to back up your points, because this entire review is hinged upon the premise that the ending is like some kind of revelatory and unexpected twist that really redefined the viewer's interpretation of the film, but he in no way explains, like, he spends a single word explaining how or why the ending changed his perspective, so all the reader can do is guess, and that just the kind of like robs the review of any explanatory or argumentative power. And so when you combine that with the like smugness, I guess, of how no one else got it, it's just kind of a really annoying review. And as well as one that doesn't really say anything. So I think what the problem might have been that the reviewer was, hesitant to spoil the movie by discussing the ending, but
right.
In situations like this, you really do have to just accept that you are going to spoil it. Letterboxd allows you to tag your review as having spoilers. I know it wouldn't have been able to become the #1 most thumbed up review on Letterboxd if you had that in front of people, but still, for it to actually do the job he's trying to get it to do, it would have needed to go into spoiler territory.
Yeah. I think I can guess at what he's getting at with his focus on is like the water is an overt metaphor for something that later makes all the eventful sloshing around incredibly meaningful, right? The water is like clearly a metaphor for the woman's depression
or just like the she's being overwhelmed by life, and the water represents that. And then at the end, when you can't see shit because they're just pumping water like fucking into the set, and it's covering the camera lens, and she's like drowning, right? You could take that as like her giving up, maybe like literally committing suicide, or just giving up, and giving up her trying to help her daughter, and saying like, you know what, it's better if I leave my daughter to my husband or whatever, because I'm not a fit mother or something. I don't know. Like like that's the only thing that I think somebody like pretentious like this could be like, oh my god, that's so deep. Like, I don't know what else he could be getting at with like the water is a clear metaphor. It's like it's a metaphor. Is it a metaphor for something that the movie already has and would probably be a better movie if it just didn't have the water thing? Like the ghost shit. It's like the ghost represents her struggling in life, but that's already in the movie. So just have more of that because that's the better part. That's my take. If I'm even correct about my guess, maybe that's not what he meant. But I don't know what else it could be.
I mean, that would make sense, but one really cannot say just because
we can't. Yes.
Just because the reviewer doesn't tell us.
Doesn't. What does Kafka-esque approach to suspense mean?
Well,
does that mean anything?
Kafkaesque is comparing it to the approach of Franz Kafka, who I think is known for sort of a juxtaposition between the mundane and horror, to kind of expose the problems of our society, like the Metamorphosis being a story by him, where there is this sort of interpretation that Gregor, who wakes up and becomes is now a cockroach. That whole thing is just a big fat metaphor for him getting like exploited by his family and the capitalist society around him, and then kind of just giving up. So kind of similar, explicitly kind of similar to what your interpretation of his reaching interpretation of Darkwater is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was wondering what he meant by that, because I mean nobody ever says the word Kafkaesque unless they're trying to sound more pretentious. But I was wondering if he actually was trying to communicate something there, and he was. So fair enough.
Yeah. I suppose an appropriate enough use of the Kafka illusion.
Yes. Yep. I did click on his profile to see, because I what stood out to me was that this was one of the most impactful twist endings he'd ever seen. So I want to see what other movies he's seen, because it could be just this one. Let's see.
He's probably seen The Ring.
Seen a lot of movies. Yeah, he's seen The Ring.
Has he seen Stalker? That has a good twist ending where it
does.
Turns out that nobody wants to get a wish after all.
Right, yeah. He, okay. He likes some movies I like. He rated the Stephen King It remake 5 out of 10, 5 out of 5.
One from like a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Yes. So that's. I bet maybe he also has a hot take on that. Well,
do you not like that movie?
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I guess 5 out of 5 for that. Movie. It does seem. Yeah.
He's welcome to like it. 5 out of 5. Come on. Null gave it a 1.5. Well, anyway. All right.
What'd you give it?
A lot of movies. I give it a. In fact, let's look up what I gave. I think I might have even rated it. 2017. It. No. Oh, I give it a 2.5. Yeah, good. About a half. Halfway between good and bad.
All right. Would it have been better or worse if they had adapted the child orgy scene, do you think?
I don't know. It would have been more brave. When I given it
yes. More challenging, certainly.
More challenging. Oh, that was part 2. I see. Part 1 is well, I was just looking. Null and KG both gave it a 3. So actually they liked it more than I did.
They liked it part 2?
It part 1, sorry. With the kids. In part 2 with the adults, which I didn't even see.
Okay.
And
that's
that
when
guy
Null
gave 5 stars to.
Null dropped it down to 1.5. So
yeah.
He liked the first one, but not the second one. I see.
Right. Which is kind of true for the mini series. the like original It adaptation on TV, where the stuff with the kids was like generally pretty good, and the adult half was like really awful. So I guess they just did that again.
Interesting. Is there a noticeable quality difference between the two sections in the book, would you say?
Yeah, I think not so much. Like the stuff with the adults is still good, but the stuff with the kids, like coming together to fight against this evil that's preying on their childish fears, is like
Definitely
the
the best part.
part. Yeah, and so, but it works better because the kid stuff is like it's interspersed in between. They have like flashbacks and stuff,
I
so
see.
it's not just like the kid half and the adult half, which is how all the adaptations have been, which makes the fact that the adult half is worse just stand out so much more because it's all you're getting until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So I think it was smarter for them to split it into two movies with the new adaptation, because then you can like appreciate the first half more and
just kind of
skip the
ignore the
second half.
second half.
Come
Yeah.
on. Yeah, like that's what I did.
Do you think the popularity of Stranger Things made like the kid part of it more appealing to modern audiences and the adult part less
Yes.
so?
I think so. In fact, I think some of the actors in it, at least like one, were kids from Stranger
Also
Things.
in Stranger Things.
That definitely helps, and yeah, it plays up the same like '80s nostalgia mixed with like horror.
You think
stuff.
it was a source of inspiration for Stranger Things then?
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it's like the original, but probably one of the best known like kids coming together to fight evil, fight some supernatural thing. And I think so. Yeah, Stranger Things definitely took influence from that. Even other authors have like I've read other books, another book like that called Summer of Night by Dan Simmons, one of my favorite authors, of course. And
Yes, the author of the Hyperion Cantos.
yes, exactly. And I didn't like it as much as I enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean, he cites taking inspiration from it. It's the same story again, basically. It's like something evil and these kids band together. So as far as I know, as far as people make reference to it, like started that trend. Although, it's hard to say it's the first because there's always somewhere it's like actually in 1921.
I'm sure it's not the first story like
yeah,
that.
I'm sure it's not. But most well known maybe is a better way to put that.
A lot of adventure stories and everything have children as the characters.
Yeah, but I mean, like specifically children coming together to stop a like supernatural evil force taking over the town.
Sure, that's more specific.
If you're gonna get that specific, like it stands out a lot more, I guess, as a progenitor. But, no, totally. That's like a lot of, I mean, many slasher flicks, like horror movies from the '80s. Not like young kids like that, but
more teens in those, yeah.
But still, it's like ragtag group of teens gets together to stop, Freddy.
No, the teens are played by like 25 to 29-year-old actors.
Wait, that guy's 30. Yeah. True. But I think my favorite movies are ones that.
Well, you're quite restricted with your 5-star rankings on Letterboxd. You don't give those out for nothing. I've noticed.
I don't.
You only have like 6 or something even now.
Yeah, because part of it is like not even how good I think the movie is, but how much fun I had watching it. It's a very personal kind of thing. So like, I gave This Place Rules 5 because I think it was very good. I really like Andrew Callahan's YouTube stuff, and it's just more of that. But I had a great time watching it with my family. We were all like laughing until we couldn't breathe at some of the people in there, and so that's a 5-star for me. Maybe I'll drop it by a half because he's a sexual predator, but
possibly
I'll hold off on that.
I don't really think that should come into the rating, though.
Well, that's how you rate your movies. I rate mine differently. That's what makes it personal. If we all just rated them based on the quality of the film, it'd all be the same rating because the quality is objective. It's your interpretation that's subjective. My interpretation is through the lens of who I watched it with and how much fun we had.
I think your interpretation of the quality is also subjective, though, so that's not true.
No, but the quality is objective. Your interpretation of the quality is subjective. I don't know.
You can't objectively prove that a movie has good characters or whatever. Even cinematography. You know, you can't objectively prove what the best cinematography is because it's just using a technical art to try and create an aesthetic experience. And what aesthetics appeal to people is always subjective to the viewer.
Yeah, sure, that's true. You know, you can give it a certain number of points for like not using Dutch angles incorrectly or something. I don't know, but then at the end, it's like.
But who can say? Who can really say what the correct use of a Dutch angle is?
It's true, I guess. Movie reviewers definitely try to dictate the use of the Dutch angles. So, but should they be allowed to? I don't know.
Probably not, to be honest.
Yeah, you're right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 movies with 5 stars.
That's not very many.
No, I give a lot more 4.5s though.
I think I have like 20 or something 5-star ones.
Okay.
But what's
you're more lenient with your ratings.
Maybe I've seen better movies than you.
Maybe.
But part of my ranking system is similar to what you just described, where if I find myself like sort of on the edge of my seat for almost every scene of a movie, then that will make it a 5-star movie.
Sure.
Independent of, I guess, if it's as profound as some other movies or whatever. So the South Park movie and The Incredibles are both examples of movies I have given a 5-star rating to for that reason. So I was just like really, really hooked on them the whole time, as of my latest viewing of them.
Okay. Yeah. See, you do the same thing. It's good. That's what you should do. Here, I added a couple.
You bumped some things up. You felt
Bump some
called
things
out.
up. Yeah. No, I was just checking. I was like, you know what? There's a couple movies that maybe one. What I don't remember what I just added. The Thing. Yeah, The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. I think that's a 5-star for me.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised that wasn't already on as a 5-star.
I was too. I was like, oh shit, I must have misclicked. But you know, I mean, that's what that subjectiveness is what makes movie reviews so interesting to read. Just like our friend Nomenclature, who loved Darkwater so much. You know?
Yes.
If he had said Darkwater is a 2-star movie, it's like, yeah, that's what it is.
I wonder if it's a Japanese one. Because I feel like it's significantly harder to be impressed with it, even if you have seen the Japanese one already, because it's kind of just the same thing.
Yeah, you're right. Let's find out. He's watched a fuck ton of movies.
Yeah, sometimes the easiest thing to do is like follow them and then go on the page for the movie and see if they're pops up and then unfollow them. Once you've done that.
I'm just looking through his list alphabetically because I'm already doing that, so I'll just do that. But okay, Dark Angel, Dark Reed. Oh fuck.
What we're doing now in Fire Emblem, you have to like fight through a narrow channel, and there's a whole bunch of ballistae that actually do have long range now, parked in like a place where you can't reach them, and it's really fucking annoying. And on top of that, there's a boss with a sleep staff, which is even more annoying, but I silenced him with Deirdre, so he can't put any of my guys to sleep. That was my brilliant plan.
Best way to shut down a mage caster.
Yes. Silence them.
What else has been going on? That's it. I think that covers.
That covers things.
Covers everything. Okay, hold on. I got to it. Dark Water 46. Yeah, he's seen the Japanese one. He gave it a 3.
All right. Yeah. I guess the Japanese one doesn't have as profound of an ending or whatever.
Guess not.
We'll never know because he doesn't seem to have written a review.
Didn't explain himself in his review of the American one either, so I guess
Right, yeah.
there's just a general dearth of information. What a
Oh, yeah, we
character
did-
that man is.
Yes, yes. Be either very interesting or very uninteresting to speak to in real
Probably uninteresting because he just wouldn't explain his thoughts enough.
life. Sure.
It's like Cthulhu. You know, Cthulhu has a whole bunch of hot
Oh,
takes
yeah.
and stuff that should be interesting to talk about, but he'll just be like, no.
Refuses. Yeah. You should already understand. You wouldn't get it. I think we did talk about last time with the how I think the movie, some of the story elements are based on the Lisa Lamb case, that girl who was found dead in a water tower, and the game YIIK, Y2K.
Y2K.
References
That
there.
rings a bell. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'll briefly summarize. There's a like this girl was found dead. Unclear if she was murdered or if she fell in a water tower on top of a like apartment building. And there was video footage of her like acting weird in the elevator, so people think that maybe she was being chased or something. But there's like all sorts of theories about what really happened. But then like in the game Y2K, stylized as YIIK,
Yes.
the main character finds like that. God, what is it exactly? Like that case is a plot element in the game, and like he goes to a building, like an abandoned building, and meets a girl in an elevator. And I think it's like the girl like transports to a different dimension instead of like ending up dead in a water tower, and it's like. And then I don't know that game's plot. I mean, I watched a good video essay on that game's plot. Just 'cause
There
I
have
was
been many
curious.
made, as a matter of fact, talking about
Yeah,
how
it's
bad the game is.
Right, it's the type of game that attracts that sort of thing. Generally, with its insufferability, I guess. But I watched one, and the
I
plot doesn't
recall
hold.
that the creator, when it started to get a negative reception, went on a big angry rant about how people didn't appreciate his artistic intent or whatever.
Yeah, the type of guy who I would like imagine made that game seems like the type of guy who would go on a rant about his artistic intentions. So,
Exactly.
um,
And once you
Yeah,
get that
you would-
many layers into imagining, you're basically already the writer of Y2K yourself, and that's
two layers in.
that's why
Yeah.
it's such a brilliant satire.
Yeah, maybe that guy who wrote the Dark Water review is the creator of Y2K.
Could be.
The game ends somewhat different.
To the review, you mean?
To the movie. Because the review praised the ending of the movie, of course.
True.
It's Dark Water.
The reviewer was a terrifically big fan of the ending of the movie, in fact.
Yes, it's his favorite plot twist ending.
Yes. Yes.
Most, or not his favorite, but the most impactful.
Most impacting, yes.
On the top, I just thought I'd look at 28 Days Later in the top review is why was this filmed with a pink Motorola Razr? Yeah.
Very
No,
good
no hot
question.
takes. No hot takes on that one though.
I saw a French guy when we first watched it. There was a review by a French guy who hated it.
Okay.
He was writing in French about how he said, you know, like the dad character.
Uh-huh.
He was like complaining about how terrible it was to give that actor a character written like that. I had no idea what he meant though. I guess he really likes that actor though.
I like him too. But I don't know what was wrong with his character.
Yeah,
It's just like a kind of a loving father.
he has a
I don't know.
fairly arbitrary death scene, but it's not really like a problem with the character writing.
Right. The death scene was meant to progress the plot because it was like the only way for them to.
They had to remove the strong father figure so
Yeah,
the
exactly.
army men could come in and do their thing.
Yeah, try to assault the women. Exactly.
Yes. They're Andrew Callahan type of tactics.
Yes, yeah. That maybe he trained with them. What do you think? I was like, I brought up on AFT about like when the Andrew Callahan thing and the Justin Roiland thing came out, which we talked about briefly last stream. I commented like, why are people so like weird with women? And our favorite Mario, commented about how it's all society's fault. It teaches men to be that way. But I was raised in a society. I live in a society. I don't feel that way. It's I feel like it's a very dismissive, like it's not their fault kind of way of looking at it. I don't know.
I think it's hard to like simplify that issue down to a definite expression because there are so many different factors that go into why somebody might do something like that, and people who try to come up with like a single explanation for it are probably ideologues of some kind. So
Sure.
Mario would be the type of person who would like
He is an
jump
ideologue,
on the univariate explanation of it.
Yeah.
I think cultural perceptions of things could be a factor in why some of these men do that. And I think there is also the possibility of discussing how power influences it. That was kind of if I were to try and take any philosophical or like a interesting thing away from it, it would be like that even a very small amount of power could lead you to try and get away with something like that. From Andrew Callahan, that is, because he was a guy who was like living out of his car, but because he had popular YouTube videos. But I think what it really gets down to is that I'm not sure power really does have that much to do with it, because plenty of like girls and women have been assaulted by, like absolutely poor, like deprived level poor men as well. So
Sure.
I think sometimes, yeah, it's just really hard to explain. There's so many different factors that go into why somebody might do something like that.
Yeah, I guess what I was really wondering, and I know there's no answer to this, and basically you covered it, is like, we see so many celebrities, famous people, being caught for this type of thing, like the whole Me Too movement.
Mm-hmm.
And is it just like it happens so frequently, and like the proportions are similar? We just only really find out about it because it's publicized with celebrities, or and this would be my personal guess, although of course no way to know, is that there is something to do with power, that not that that's the exclusive thing, but it's proportionally more celebrities fall into this type of behavior because they maybe have the power to, and their
Yeah.
judgment is clouded or something like that.
That makes sense. I had an observation. I've forgotten. Oh yes, part of the thing with the Me Too movement and the like number of things coming up and how it appears to be so often is because there's like a backlog almost where there's been this culture of silence around it for so long, and now that's starting to go away, and as a consequence of that, like a lot, like decades worth of cases of these things are all being brought to light at once, kind of, or
True.
over a
That is a
much
big part of it.
proportionately much shorter span of time. Even
Yeah,
Justin
and-
Roiland one that was like apparently held under wraps for a while, like it was people knew about it, but they just like suppressed it for a time or something like that.
Yeah, for like legal reasons, it's just like a bureaucracy thing, not that. Or I mean, I guess you could have the conspiracy theory where it's like they had to wait for his game to come out because the timing was suspicious. But I think it was for, yeah, just to they were like under, it was part of the investigation or something.
Oh,
But I think you're right. Like the fact that it's proportionally so many more celebrities is because of the backlog. Because there's no culture of silence around like, or not to that extent around like hiding it if you're assaulted by like just some random dude, right? But the like Hollywood culture forced you to keep that under wraps, and so this backlog developed. That is now being
that's where
revealed, and
power
not
comes
so much the
into it, I
case.
think.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Because
one of at least one of the ways.
I've
power
also
comes
heard
into it.
about like high school football teams, like the team assaults a person and then it gets put under wraps by the town or whatever because they want the team to win for them at sport events or something like that. So that's also just
Yeah,
an example of a very small amount of power sort of being What does it?
Sure. Kind of the opposite happened at my school. Actually, the entire football team got caught getting some favors from a girl in one of the bathrooms, and they all got expelled, but like the girl only got suspended. Um, but like there was a bunch of backlash from like students and parents about like, well, you got to kick her out too because she instigated it. Like it wasn't like they were pressuring her. At least that's my understanding. So she got expelled in the end too. But
Okay, yeah, I mean, without knowing more about the specifics of the story, because you could take the angle that even if she initiated it or seemed to initiate it, that she might have been under some kind of pressure that wasn't fully explored that like led her to feel like she had to do that even though she didn't want to or something along those lines. But you can never, it's hard to say without, being there to interview the people at the very least.
You could say the same about any members of the football team as well. They could have been pressured into it. So
perhaps, there's another stuff that is interesting related to all this sort of thing is that when teenage girls have like sex with their older teachers, they report much higher levels of like trauma and everything associated with that than when male students have sex with their female teachers, who usually, when asked about it, don't really like act as if they were traumatized by the experience or anything. Which probably partially speaks to just like it is much easier to be traumatized by being the one to get penetrated in sexual situations rather than the one who does the penetrating.
Yeah, that I mean that certainly could be part of it. I was thinking even just like this is an example where I think culture plays into it heavily. Where at least in the U.S. we have or many conservative countries, you have a culture of like it being super shameful for women to have sex like outside of marriage, and like the idea of them having sex with an older teacher, it's like they were taken advantage of, like they should be traumatized. Which, not to downplay the fact, I'm certain they actually are the ones who say they are, but I think part of that is like part of it, a pressure to feel that way may play into it. Whereas for men, it's like at least officially speaking, I guess, like it's the same. It's bad, but no, nobody thinks that way. Like young men, it's like that's cool as fuck if having sex, like the men are never seen as like, wouldn't be called a slut, right? That's not a thing. They'd be called like a baller, or whatever.
Only in the gay community can you get called a slut as a man. Yes,
sure. And then like them having sex with an older teacher can often be seen as like
doubly impressive. Yes.
Yeah, they're like like a conquest, like a challenging prize that they attained, which is equally like harmful culturally, but like it's just both are bad ways of looking at it. But it leaves the young men, it leaves the men in the better position either way.
I think that's also a factor. Yes.
I think it is a factor. Again, it's the type of thing where I don't know if I or anyone can give a full answer, but I'm pretty confident that is a part of it. I mean, my school, many schools, there were girls who were known to have had sex, and there were the guys who were the ones who had sex with them, and the girls were looked down on as sluts, and for the guys, it was like, cool, nice work,
Yeah.
So.
Do you think that's more pronounced in Catholic schools?
I guess I guess it probably is more pronounced there, but I think it's just the culture everywhere, really, to some extent. Even this thing I'm talking about with that girl in the football team, like that girl was looked down on as a slut, and the football team, it's like
they got
wrongfully expelled.
Oh,
well, the school didn't see it that way, but for the kids, it was like. It's like, and it had that attitude too. It's like, now our football team sucks. It's like, what the fuck are they thinking?
Yeah, if the whole team got expelled, they probably would suck. But people having to replace the entire team.
That was an issue. Not that I care. I don't give a shit about football.
No.
I admit that was a thing that happened. But yeah, it was like, why would you expel them? She's the one who did it. It's like, well, first off, everyone participated, and whatever.
It was a team effort.
If she was like, it was a team effort between all of them.
If she was pressured or assaulted, that's a different story. But that's not how.
That's not how the story has been told. Yeah.
Not how the story goes, as far as I know. So I don't think she even ever said that. So, but who knows? Anyway. Yeah.
This has not been the most cheerful of TMP topics.
No, I guess I brought it up. Yeah. Just something that I found odd. Because it's like, even with like back to celebrities, it's like Justin Roiland, he could, he could probably get whatever girl he wanted. Just like maybe he has to date them. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe that was the issue, and he was just like, "I'll take what I want." But it's like, really?
Well, I don't know too much about the
Rick and Morty
specifics,
fan.
but wasn't it like a girl that he already had a relationship with, and then he kidnapped her or whatever when she tried to leave
that's
him or
true.
something like that? So in
I
that
think that
case, the
is it.
psychology of it would probably be like he had this crime of passion sort of thing going, I guess, where he felt so invested in the relationship that he then had this rage response probably when it seemed like the woman was going to leave.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
so
that is a little different.
he wouldn't take the stance of being like, "Oh, I'm Justin Roiland. I can go get with any Rick and Morty fan I want. Like, I must have
Yeah.
this woman,
Right, yeah. Sure, that's true. That's true. Rest in peace, Rick and Morty. And High on Life 2 or whatever.
Richard and Mortimer, yes.
Yeah, Richard and Mortimer. That apparently the studio that made High on Life, I didn't even know they made other games, but they had made other games, and all of them basically fully rely on Justin Roiland's voice acting and comedies. Like that whole studio is completely fucked. I guess.
People better be looking for new jobs, I guess.
Yeah, put all your eggs in one basket.
Yes, if you put all your eggs in one basket, make sure that basket does not kidnap women. I guess that's the lesson we learned from this story.
That's right. Make sure the basket is gay. Although that didn't help Kevin Spacey, so. Oh well, that's that. We solved that issue on TNP.
Yep, certainly did.
Yep.
So here's Manfroy. He's the guy who manipulated the king of whatever country, the wooded country we see his last chapter, and so now he's up to his same old tricks again, and is manipulating this guy, who's like the young king of Augustria or something like that.
It's like a bad dude.
Yes, he does kind of look like an anime villain, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yes, and here we go. The his subordinate comes here and fills us in on the fact that the prince of Granbell was assassinated, Prince Kurth. Now they're talking about the revival of their dark world, their dark lord.
Yes, very overtly announcing their plan.
And Arvis apparently consented to their proposal. So this is very much a case of dramatic irony in the game's story, because the audience gets to watch all this stuff, and so now we know Arvis is probably not to be trusted, but Sigurd doesn't get to find that out.
Right. And maybe it has a cool twist where we actually can trust Arvis, but so is even irony to the player. You never know.
That could happen.
Let's go. In Harry Potter with Snape, right? Famous success.
Yes. Or Metal Gear Solid with Ocelot, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Or he was the villain, but his motives were pure.
I think of him and Snape as being associated with each other just because they are both characters who switch allegiances multiple times.
Yeah. And alter their own perception of the world in order to fool their masters. Whereas I think Snape removes some of his memories, and Ocelot hypnotizes himself.
Sounds
using
right.
nanomachines.
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I look forward to Death Stranding 2 or whatever Kojima's working on next.
I was about to say the same thing. I'm looking forward to Death Stranding 2. But you didn't even like 1.
No, I didn't even finish it.
Okay. You just want to see how it's going to be.
I was just kind of saying it to have something to say.
Oh, okay. I am looking forward to it. I like that Stranding one, so I'm looking forward to it too.
I thought it was inspired, but just the gameplay of it I couldn't quite get into, I think. Although
Sure.
I have been thinking about going back to it, or I guess it's on the list of things I'd like to do.
Yeah, that's a good one to talk over on stream as well.
Yeah, Yahtzee in his review said that they should have included the like a podcast along with the game
Hmm.
because it was the type of game that needed a podcast to go with it.
I think so. It's the type of game, yeah, that could easily have one. You would need something to talk about. There's, it's a lot of walking. You can admire the scenery, listen to music, whatever. But I like to have, I would have like YouTube on or something in the back.
Yeah, I play a lot of games that way though. I play this game
Yeah,
that
same.
way.
We're kind of doing that right now. I'm entertaining you
Kinda, yeah.
while you play this boring game.
There is a lot of just like waiting for the enemy to come to you over a map that is too large in this one. Oh.
We talked very briefly about The Last of Us show, and I commented on the show supposed to be good, and you made the point that because basically already was a show, they removed the gameplay, and that reminded me, I saw Jack Packard of The Escapist and previously of Red Letter Media. It's basically the same thing. He had like a tweet talking about. He said, if you were to tell me The Last of Us is a visually impressive, compelling story that's based off of a visually impressive video game known for its focus on storytelling, I would say, okay, I believe you. And he said, the more interesting conversation is about adaptations. As AAA video games become more like movies in general, and The Last of Us being very story-focused, I'd be more inclined to put something like this into the same category as the Disney live-action remakes, where you already have this realistically rendered visual and full voice acting. What are you adapting? The gameplay mechanics? Which ones? So I thought that was kind of something I read before that was a bit relevant to something we touched on, where like what is the point of that kind of adaptation? I mean, the answer is money, but it's like you're just showing the same story again, which is already suitable for a show. Like it's almost more of a remake than an adaptation if you use that criteria. If you use Jack's criteria.
Okay. Yes. I think. Yeah, like for me, when talking about Naughty Dog's most recent games, particularly the two Last of Us ones, I do kind of always want to come back to just the essential criticism that they're much more like video games, like much more like movies than video games should aim to be, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when it comes to the movie, the series being made, it's like I would expect it to work relatively well just because the game was already really movie-like to begin with. So it's harder to complain about, I guess. But yeah, I see the point where it's like, if the game was already really, really similar to a movie, then what is the point of adapting it to a TV show?
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it does just come back to profit, just to have a thing to make money with.
And people are even commenting on like how similar it is, where it's like, yeah, it's just like a one-to-one adaptation basically, which is fine. And I saw somebody made the point where it's like, I'd rather watch the show and I don't have to sit through 12 hours of an uninspired third-person shooter to enjoy the story. So I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
Because like I didn't mind the gameplay, but like I had a friend who liked the story but thought the gameplay was boring, so you just play on easy just to story mode.
I thought the gameplay was all right, but it wasn't very exciting, I guess.
Like uninspired is a fine way to put
it. Yeah.
I feel the same. I did not hate it. I kind of like the stealthing around. I like stealth games.
Competent but uninspired might be a good way to put it.
Yep, that's fair. So then what's left is the story, the acting quality, etc.
In some ways, the more interesting thing to comment on might just be criticism of Naughty Dog's writing. Whether one wants to criticize it and say that it's very good or otherwise. Because I personally don't really like it.
It was fine as a. I mean, yeah, I guess the thing that everyone likes to talk about is like the big moments, like the end of Last of Us One, right? Where you as the player through Joel are forced to like murder a bunch of innocent people, and that's like the big hard hitting holy shit moment. But the things that like stand out to me more are just like I don't know, just like wandering through the world and meeting people and seeing how different like people survive and how different small like societies have formed. And like none of that's especially like exceptional, but it was always good enough to keep me interested. And that's usually the parts I like best from any type of post-apocalyptic or zombie adjacent media.
The big
Um,
shootout moment in the end is the only thing that it does with interactivity that's like really benefits from the decision to make it a video game, because the
yes,
player by doing that has this feeling of complicity or like almost an accomplice of what Joel is doing.
mhm. Yeah, but then you have the cop out of like, the game forces you to do it in order to finish the game. And you could say like you don't have to finish the game, but that's a little too meta for most people to like give a shit about.
Hmm.
Like games like Undertale were so overt with forcing you to make those decisions, do a better job of like having that decision making and the fact that it's a game forcing the player to be complicit, having that be a part of the story. Um,
I think that does benefit it to some extent. Undertale is interesting because um, you can play the game itself and get to the end credits without killing anyone, but many players have this temptation to do the most evil playthrough they possibly can in order to see the new content that is locked behind that.
mhm.
And that becomes their like moral justification of it, almost like, oh no, I don't want to kill people, I'm only doing it to see the genocide ending. So that's interesting. I think
True.
it's okay. There is some like legitimacy to having a game where like the story always goes the same way. So Spec Ops: The Line and Last of Us are like this, and the fact that the player has an active role and it does still sort of benefit the story to some extent. It still does help you have this feeling of guilt that the game is aiming for.
Mhm.
Shadow of the Colossus could also be brought up with this sort of idea as well.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean that's another game that has the same like the only way to win is not to play kind of mindset where it's like, well, I'm gonna play it. So you like automatically, what's his name? Dormammu warns you. I forgot the
Dormu, I
demon's name.
think, yeah,
Dormu, close. See, that's
or
why I was
Dormin. I think it's
Dormin.
Dormin.
Yeah. Anyway, Dormammu from Doctor Strange warns you like, don't do this,
Yes,
and
yes, the price you pay may be heavy indeed. And Wander's response
right,
is, I don't care.
exactly. It's like I don't care. I bought this game. I'm gonna play it.
I always thought that was a very good, dramatic video game story moment. Shadow of the Colossus also does stuff like the wind tunnel sequence where you as a player have this at least temptation to like try and push the analog stick really hard to get Wander to get towards his woman while he's getting pushed through this wind tunnel, and it's just futile. And that's
Yeah, yeah.
also an interesting use of gameplay interactivity, and I feel like Last of Us doesn't really think of anything as cool as that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like Metal Gear Solid, as ham-fisted as it tends to be, also has good moments like that, like what we talked about, like
Definitely.
the boss executing the boss, and then the microwave tunnel,
The Sorrow
which
thing, too, where all the enemies you killed appear as
oh yeah,
ghosts to torment you more.
right. I always forget about that because I like always do a no kill playthrough. So
Yeah.
I've never had anyone in that river. I should do it. I should play it again just to experience that the way it's intended. But yeah, that and then yeah, the microwave tunnel in 4 where it's supposed to make the player suffer by having you mash triangle so you suffer like Snake who is burning alive. And in MGS1, that's the same exact thing where Snake's being tortured. And if you give up, Meryl dies. That's even a better one.
Yes.
Um,
That's a classic
it's like,
one. Then you
my
get to have
thumb
a
hurts.
bromance with Otacon instead.
Yeah, which is like kind of the better ending.
But then Meryl
'Cause,
wouldn't get to go on and romance Johnny in Metal Gear Solid 4.
right, yeah. True, but then Metal Gear Solid 2, she's like not even in, but Otacon is. That's
Yeah.
that's a better game. So
It is
I like
implied that
Otacon.
she survived, though, because Snake has the infinite ammo helm bandana or something like that in Metal Gear
Yeah,
Solid
something
2.
like that. True, I guess she was never explicitly known to have survived until 4.
Yes.
And the way that 1 ends, like it's implied that Snake got the Otacon ending and Meryl died.
which I didn't even think about as someone who, I knew the, like, I was, 4 was already out when I was like playing the games. No surprise to me. I didn't think about that. And the alternative is like you would go with Meryl, and Otacon is not explicitly dead, but he's kind of implied to have just been left in the base as it got blown up. But then MGS2 kind of like.
I think that's kind of one of those things that, as is typical of Kojima's style, where he just kind of like doesn't comment on it and hopes you won't notice.
Yeah, he just like forgets to write an ending for Otacon. Doesn't matter. And then we never find out that Snake's name is David.
Nice.
I think he only says that to Otacon.
I think he starts calling himself Pliskin in the next game regardless.
Yeah, Iroquois Pliskin. Named after Snake Plissken from Escape from New York.
Yes.
And LA.
Kojima is a big movie fan.
He is.
He's not a movie snob, though, because he just indiscriminately loves every movie he sees.
Yeah. Yes. Especially like Escape from New York. He wanted Kurt Russell playing Snake, but Kurt wasn't down for that.
Too bad.
Not a gamer.
What was the celebrity that he got to play Snake in MGS5 again?
I'm also like blanking on his name. Fuck.
But the point is, that guy's a gamer.
Apparently,
not Kurt Russell, though.
No, it's not Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell is not a gamer.
Yeah. No, Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah.
That's right.
I knew who it was. I was just like, what's his name? Yeah.
Gamer
24
Sutherland.
From the famous 24 TV show. I've never watched. Oh, he's Canadian. Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Wow. He's born in London. I'm learning so much from his bio.
London, Ontario, or real London?
Oh, the real one.
I like it better with there's also Paris, Ontario, so you can differentiate between them by saying there's Paris, which is a gentrified town in Ontario, and then there's Paris, which is the capital of France.
Right.
But with London, you can't really do it that way. They're just both London, sadly.
Yeah. I mean, in the US, we find good ways to butcher the names of cities to make them stand out. Like we have Versailles.
Yeah, you told me about another one. I forget.
Yeah,
I was blanking on what it
forgetting
was now, but it like kind of pissed me off when I first heard it.
Oh, Cairo.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Cairo.
I think that was it, Cairo.
Maybe there's two I can think of off the top of my head. Versailles is definitely the worst one.
It's
Oh,
really
and
bad,
no,
yeah.
there's also the University of Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Notre Dame.
Yeah. No, and then there's the basketball team, the Boston Celtics.
Yes, classic one.
Which I've had arguments with multiple people about the pronunciation of the word Celtic because all they know is the Celtics.
Yep.
It's like, yes, I know that is correct as far as the name of the team goes, but the word is Celtic.
I think I said this before, that I remember of being in elementary school and having an argument with a kid who was convinced that the Yu-Gi-Oh card was called Celtic Guardian because of the fucking basketball team.
Yep. Those darn Celts. Yeah, those are the butcherings that I can think of. And we, of course, do
Those
have
are some
Paris.
very solid butcherings.
Yes.
Yes, every country has a Paris.
We have maybe even every state might have one here.
You have more
Maybe not
than
every
one. Yeah, I
state,
know there's
but-
Paris, Texas.
Yep. There's some others.
It's also the title of a movie by Woody Allen, I think.
Oh, okay. Woody Allen. Speaking of
Yeah, speaking of molesters.
predation, yes. What a shame. I do like his movies.
I haven't seen too many.
Me neither.
I think I might have only seen that morality-centered one in philosophy class. We watched it. I can't remember what the title of it is now, though.
I also don't remember what I've seen of his, but I remember liking what I saw, I think. Woody Allen.
You liked
Just looking at his
Rosemary's Baby as well, or just from a different noted sexual
Yes.
predator.
Maybe I was
Polanski.
thinking of him. I don't know. Because I'm looking at Woody Allen's movies and I might not have even seen any. So I might have been thinking of Polanski and just getting them confused because of their crimes.
Shared hobbies, yes.
Yeah, the shared hobby. He's got Woody Allen has a movie called The Purple Rose of Cairo.
Is
I
it
don't know, probably not.
Cairo that purple rose originates from?
Yeah, I don't think I've seen
Probably
any Woody
not.
Allen stuff actually. So
I think it's a very important town. Not even Paris, Texas.
I don't see that on his list. You sure that's by him? In fact,
No, I'm not. Could very well be by someone else.
Directed by Wim Wenders.
Okay.
Yep. I don't know.
Maybe that's Woody Allen's nom de plume.
Maybe just like John
Le
Le
Carré, yeah.
Yeah.
John the Square.
On the Square. Wim Wenders. Ernst Wilhelm Wenders is a German filmmaker. I don't know. Doesn't seem to have anything to do with Allen, so I think he just were a little confused.
All I knew was that Paris, Texas was the name of a movie. For
Oh.
some reason, I thought it was by Woody Allen.
All right.
That's the situation.
Yep. Was something else? Oh yeah, there's all that backlash about the new Velma show. Everyone's talking about that.
We did cover that on the previous stream.
Did we? Oh,
We
wow.
did, yes.
I forgot.
I talked about how I think it's kind of like a lazy thing people are doing to just bash that every second.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yep, I do remember. We had a brief conversation. There's nothing more to say about it really.
No.
I don't even think it's like so bad it's worth watching. I think it's just like, oh yeah, capitalization on what's, get the algorithm going.
Yes, that's my impression as well. So I sort of desire not to talk about it any further, just to avoid being hypocritical.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I guess like I didn't even care because I never liked Scooby Doo anyway. Really, so it's like okay. I mean,
I find
this
it
was like,
kind of charming in a way.
yeah,
I'm
I'm
not-
not trying to argue it's bad, but
I'm not a
Velma's
super
bad.
big Scooby Doo fan.
yeah,
I think Velma's one of the characters I like more out of Scooby Doo, though.
right. Maybe that's why she got her own spin-off.
I think Fred is my favorite, though. Just because.
Just because you like his ascot.
Yeah. The first time I ever saw the Bakami Time meme, it was Fred singing it.
Okay.
Because you know that's the famous thing in Scooby Doo is that he's the only character who does not have a catchphrase, I think. Shaggy says
yeah.
Zoinks, Velma says Jinkies, Scooby Doo says, like Scooby Doo. I'm actually not
What
sure
does
what
Daphne
Daphne's
say?
is. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
exactly. I was also thinking.
Cheapers, maybe? I think she has one.
Oh yeah.
Because in the video, each of them does their catchphrase, and then Fred just breaks out into Bakami Time for his one.
Classic. That is, of course, a reference to Yakuza.
The Yakuza series of games. Yes, that's one of the songs you can sing at karaoke.
It is. Yep.
It's a very good song.
It is. It is a good song.
It's very emotional, even if you don't understand the Japanese lyrics.
Right. Yeah. You can tell that Kiryu is on the verge of tears.
Have you ever had the experience of like listening to a famous piece of music that is in a language you do not know, and that like wishing not to know that, like being glad you don't know the lyrics because they give it a certain sense of extra mystique or something?
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few songs in Japanese that I like. I mean, and I've never really wanted to look up the lyrics because I just like how it sounds, and I'm satisfied with that. And it doesn't have like a level of mystique. Like I know what the song is generally about, and I'm satisfied with that, I guess.
I had that experience with Beethoven's Ode to Joy, but and I think some other songs. But what I've noticed is that every time I've had a song like that, if I do go on to learn the lyrics, it actually increases my appreciation of the song rather than taking away from it anyway.
Yeah, Yeah, I guess I guess I've never regretted looking up lyrics, but I guess yeah. Just to answer your first question, I do have that experience, and even like sometimes there's a famous or well-known song from Nier Automata, which we'll get to, which is, I think it plays in the credits. There's three versions of it. There's an English, French, and Japanese version, and I actually like the Japanese one the best. Like I know what they're saying because it's the same as like meaning is the same as the English one, but I think I just like the Japanese singer better, and I almost just like not really understanding her, but I can still hear the emotion in her voice, and I find that like I just like that more than like knowing what she's saying in English. And the French one is also fine, but I guess I don't really have any strong feelings about it.
Yes, I'll probably like the French version. That's just because it is in French.
Yeah. Well, when we finish the game, uh, 3 times, we'll hear all three iterations of the song.
I see. So each character, like for their credits, has a given language. So
I actually don't remember. I know that the Japanese and English ones are sung. I don't know if the French one shows up in the game or if it's just in the soundtrack. Maybe just in the French version, that's what plays. And then they have like a mix at like the very last one. They mix them up, which is fun. Maybe that's where the French one appears.
Could
they
be.
mix them together. That's a cool part. We'll enjoy mandatory
cool.
enjoyment. Yeah. Oh, I've never really like thought about Ode to Joy.
Andai Freude.
Yeah, Andai Freude.
I know some of the lyrics in German. They're pretty good lyrics. Well, it's actually like the lyrics are a poem by Schiller, who is considered to be an excellent poem in the language of German, of course. So it's a real German masterpiece. It's a combination of one of their great composers and one of their great poets.
Right, yeah, it's like the epitome of German art.
Exactly.
Everybody had a hand in it. Reminds me when I was in Portugal, my wife and I went to a like concert, like an orchestral concert, and they did an opera. It was German opera, and the program we had the lyrics in German and then in Portuguese.
Yes.
So I don't know what they were saying. So I enjoyed it, but I because of the opera is so focused on the singing. I almost in that case I did wish I had the English version as well, so I could at least like follow the story, even though like I was able to enjoy the music, of course, without knowing the story, but just didn't know what was going on. So that might be that.
It is interesting that English speakers are almost kind of like used to opera being in just a different language because there isn't that much in the way of English language opera.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really I doubt there's much Portuguese either.
Probably not, no.
Yeah, like Italian and German, like they have theirs, and then
and some French as well.
French,
like
yeah.
Carmen is in French.
Yeah. But everyone outside of that, it's just not a genre for their language.
Apparently not. Is there Japanese opera?
I don't know. I'm sure there is.
It would probably be a more
answer your question. Yes, there
modern thing because it would come after Japan was introduced to Western cultural traditions, probably.
True, because they have kabuki as their like singing, dancing drama.
Yes.
I mean, there is a Nier Automata opera. So, like, yes, there is Japanese opera.
There's a Dragon Quest ballet.
Cool. Actually, it might be a ballet. Nier Automata ballet.
Is it a ballet or an opera?
They had some theatrical production. So I don't know. Oh well. There's an anime series. What? Huh.
I wonder if it's as good as Serial Experiments Lane, though.
Looks like it just follows the
game.
The game.
That makes sense.
Only 3 episodes. So far, no, it began airing this year in January. Okay, yeah, so it's only 3 episodes. Oh, cool.
Let's check it out.
I see.
Episode 3, alternate ending. 2B and 9S decide to ride a boar and a moose for fun.
That's a
Very much
good
like
alternate
that.
ending.
Oh wow, that's fun. There are alternate endings corresponding to some of the endings of the game. So like in episode 2, alternate ending is 2B removes her OS chip and dies.
Yes.
That's fun.
Classic.
Wow, this sounds fun based on the Wikipedia summary. I gotcha.
I do like anime where the characters decide to ride a moose for fun. That is always a good scene to include in your anime.
Yes.
I think a list of anime that have a scene like that include Nier Automata, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, and a 2B loses control of the boar and accidentally kills a Yorha squad. With the Yorha forces destroyed, Earth becomes a paradise for the machines.
Oh well.
So maybe that's how the game ends. Who knows? We'll find out.
That would be a very beautiful
It would
and
be.
tragic ending. Tragic, but
Right.
like bittersweet. Because at least the machines get something.
Yeah, they're basically
long-suffering
mostly doing
machines
fine.
that we keep putting
because
method in.
there's just every now and then a couple of androids come down and start just slaughtering all of them. At least that's how it seems.
So that's true.
Yeah.
If you look at the big picture.
When the humans are on the moon, maybe they're doing fine there. Earth is a lost paradise. Well, here's a fun little thing. I clicked on the Wikipedia homepage, and today's featured article is the Panzer Dragoon saga, which
Yes.
we've talked about on stream before. So there's a bit of a coincidence.
Those are masterpiece games, I think.
Are they?
I don't know. I've never played them.
Okay. Kind of just it made me think of Drakengard, of course, because you also ride a dragon in some of those.
That is an apt comparison, yes.
In fact, isn't Drakengard Dragoon? Yeah, which is a terrible name, but yep. Yes,
That's what it's called in Japanese.
Yeah, Dragon Dragoon. Why not Dragoon? Why specifically Drag on Dragoon? I don't know.
Because the game just drags on and on and on.
Maybe.
They want you to know that.
Maybe.
I never knew that about Drakengard.
Yeah, well, because I should have a set of facts, fun facts. I'll have them prepared for next time.
Yeah.
I just didn't really prepare for this.
You gotta do Nier
like,
Automata notes.
I'm not even sure what game I'm playing.
I was thinking I might do Studio Ghibli facts as like the successor to Pixar facts.
Oh, okay, since we're giving up on those, it's too painful to continue.
Well, they'll return one day.
Okay.
But in the meantime, we may have Studio Ghibli facts instead.
I could do, if you want, if you can't muster the strength to do Cars 2, I could do that one for you, and then.
It's really just a matter of like getting it in my mind that I have to watch Cars 2.
Oh, right, because you want to watch the movie before.
Yes.
You know that Cars was the first Pixar feature to utilize a technique known as ray tracing?
I didn't know that off the top of my head, but it sounds like something that might have been covered in the Pixar Facts episode.
I don't remember that one, but it could have been there.
That's Schrodinger's fact, I'd say.
Yes. Each frame of Cars took an average of 17 hours to render.
I think I had that one on the Pixar Facts.
Yeah, but it's because of the ray tracing. See, now we have the full picture.
The full facts, yes.
The full fact. You can visit the mountain range that surrounds Radiator Springs in real life. Sort of. So you can't.
Are you reading like a Screen Rant article?
Yeah, I'm
or
on
something?
Mental Floss. Yeah, top 10, whatever. I just... It was Paul Newman's final film.
I normally use TV tropes and IMDb for my Pixar facts.
Yeah, I think you had this one. One of Lightning McQueen's character inspirations was Kid Rock. Maybe not. Maybe I
can't
just heard that
remember.
before.
That's a
Oh, well.
pretty good fact.
Yeah. See, sometimes you need to go find a mentalfloss.com.
Yes.
I guess I can't verify any of those facts, but
I just trust them.
yeah, it's more fun if you just trust them. Does anyone really care if that's true or not? No.
I think the quintessential Pixar fact will always be that they didn't render the toes in Ratatouille to save rendering
Yeah,
time.
that is the most jaw dropping. I mean, that's more impactful than the twist ending of Dark Water.
I think so.
I have a friend who recently went to Disney World, and she went on
No
the
toes.
Ratatouille ride. She had toes, but
I
she
didn't
went on the
know that they
Ratatouille
had a
ride.
Ratatouille ride.
They do. I think it's in Epcot.
Oh yeah, there's
and
multiple Disney worlds. They should have that on
Yeah.
Disneyland Paris, though.
They
That'd
should.
be more appropriate.
But I was disappointed to hear that the Ratatouille ride was mostly empty. Everyone was clogging up the Frozen ride instead.
Yes.
I guess that's a better experience though. So
yeah, who knows? Between the two movies, I certainly prefer Ratatouille by a lot. But
sure, I've never
that
seen.
doesn't say
Frozen.
anything about the rides.
I do recall liking Ratatouille.
I think the character of Anton Ego is sort of an underappreciated great character.
Okay.
Because he is very perfectly portrayed. That's the critic guy in Ratatouille.
Right. That's why his last name is Ego.
Yes. He's very perfectly portrayed. Every single animation he has is just so accurately portrays this sneering, critical contempt for everything around him, and his dialogue as well. Like, there's a scene where he sees Linguini, and he's like, "You're young to be a head chef" or something. And he says, Linguini's response is, "Well, you're skinny for someone who likes food." To which Igor replies, "I don't like food. I love it. If I don't love it, I don't swallow." And walks off.
That's right.
And then his write-up that he does at the end when he turns good and helps out Ratatouille, or Remy's restaurant is also genuinely very well written and does have thoughtful things to say on the nature of criticism. I really like that he says that sort of the truest role of Brit is the advocacy and defense of the new. I think that's very true.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's something that I always I remember this, like, watching this video of Roger Ebert was at some screening, maybe it was like an indie film festival or something, and this filmmaker, Asian American filmmaker, made a film about, like, I think, like, it had something to do with, like, the Asian American experience or something, and, like, somebody, like, another guy stood up and was criticizing the student for, like, not portraying Asian American culture in a good enough light. And I recall, like, Roger Ebert just, like, shutting him down and being like, "Who are you to tell him, first off, how he should speak about his experience?" But also, I think part of his point was what you reminded me of is, like, just defense of, like, a new take on a subject, right? Like a defense of the new, which I think is an important. It's good that critics should attend these indie film festivals, because that's where all the good new stuff comes out of, for the most part. That's some good stuff out of Hollywood, and you have so much, like, not even the defense of the new. I think you should champion it. Just so many fucking remakes and shit.
Yes.
It's tedious. You should encourage new content, new thought.
I think that is the most important function of a critic. You do have to, like, bash some things to put it into context, because if you just praise, if every one of your reviews is praising, then it stops meaning anything. So you have to bash Call of Duty and stuff, so that when you praise something good, it actually has meaning.
Sure. Well, who would, if Anton is the ego, is Remy the id? And then
I think Remy would be the super ego.
Okay. Right.
Then I guess Linguini's left over to be the id. Or
Yeah,
maybe the, like, chef guy that tries to kill Remy or whatever. Like the actual villain of the movie, he could be the id.
True, he's very impulsive.
And then the grandma, the grandma with the shotgun is the super ego.
There we go. We've solved Ratatouille. I learned about the id, ego, and super ego in like psychology class.
Well, like everything else Freud came up with, it's just funny lore to comment on more so than it is something
Yeah.
that should actually be taken seriously.
Well, and what I would notice is people often like to shoehorn those concepts into like media to be like, this symbolizes the id, ego, and super ego. It's like I can't really ever argue against it because I don't even know like exactly what.
Well, the id is just like the base desires of the organism, like food and sex.
The impulse.
And then the ego, that one has been adapted into like commonplace use, where it's sort of the conscious part of your personality and your self-reflection and everything like that. So the superego is the one that has the more nebulous thing, but it has to do with like higher moral concepts or something along those lines.
Yes, Wikipedia actually explains it quite well here. It is the instinctual component that is present at birth, like what you said, and the ego seeks to please the id's drive in realistic ways that bring benefit rather than grief. So kind of mediating between the id and reality. So the conscious, certainly operates in that way. And then the superego is the internalization of cultural rules, mainly taught by parents.
Okay.
So aims for perfection, but not necessarily reality.
The super part of superego comes from, it's kind of like meta ego, like it's the thing that rests upon the ego rather than than like Super Mario type of super.
Ego is not sharply separated from the id. Its lower portion merges into it, but the repressed merges into the id as well and is merely a part of it. The repressed is only cut off sharply from the ego by the resistances of repression. It can communicate with the ego through the id. See, like reading that type of shit, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? But like when, reading the Wikipedia, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I think the id, ego, and super ego have potential to be like fun symbols in a work of fiction, but when critics and everything try to introduce that interpretation when it's not almost explicitly introduced by the work itself, it tends to just come off as very, very pretentious.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. And I mean, some like media has it explicitly, like the I have no mouth, but I'm a scream game has Am's ego, superego, and id as like separate characters.
Game Xenogears also has a character named id.
And the devs of Doom, a studio called id.
Indeed.
Well. There we go. That's our psychology lesson for today.
Yes, we finally beat Chapter 2, which is a very long slog of a map. And Sigurd, we kind of like killed the guy who's the new king of Augustria, who's been giving us trouble. But Eldigan, our friend, who is also a knight serving Augustria, like spared him and saved him, is now nursing him back to health and moved to the northern part, because what we conquered was only the southern part of Augustria. Oh yes, and we've been given 1 year's grace to like get the fuck out of Augustria before the war will resume. By Eldigan. And so now the text telling us that Sigurd worked to fulfill his promise to Eldigan and persisted in negotiations aimed to return administrative control back to Augusti.
Okay.
But the Valhalla government is telling him, no, you gotta stay. Gotta keep up the occupation.
Right. Don't want things falling apart. Okay.
We've got some corrupt officials coming there. So basically, what we see is both Sigurd and Eldigan trying to resolve this with no further bloodshed, let's say, and it's not really working because everyone else around them wants to keep fighting.
Right.
Including Chagall, the ambitious new king of Augustria, and also the Grandel officials that we are dealing with on our end.
This is like they are the ego trying to control the id.
Yes, exactly. Sigurd represents the super ego, and
right.
Harvest represents the ego.
Yes, and the rebellious people are the id.
Yes. The bandits of Orgahil here are the id.
Yeah, the bandits. Yeah, there you go.
Battle on the Horizon was going to be a true test of one's friendship and loyalty.
Okay.
Yes, so Eldigan is kind of the Camus of this game, where he's the honorable knight, but he happens to serve another country, and so we're going to end up having to fight him. So chapter 3, this is the watery chapter of the game. We had the forest chapter and I guess the plains chapter previously. So yeah, this guy's still a dickhead. He's sending
There he is,
Jacobin
Jacobin.
after us, yes.
It's got a lot of facial hair.
He's got his thunder sword.
Ooh.
And then in Sylvale Castle we have Eldigan.
What to do, indeed.
Yes, he's got quite a dilemma. And then we have Orgahil here, which is where the bandits live.
Yeah, it looks like a bandity kind of area.
And they're just saying like, oh, war's gonna happen, we're just gonna go raid the villages while everyone is distracted.
That's smart.
But Bridget here, who's the captain of these people, says no, because I have a creed to uphold.
No. Bandits with a conscience.
Yes, we Orgahil pirates are known for giving to the poor. And these two are like scheming against the captain. So they're just gonna go and plunder anyways, despite what Bridget said.
They're better at their job than she's.
They have a very different interpretation of what their job is supposed to be, I think.
Right.
So it's been about half the year out of the year that we have been allotted, I think, to try and piece the fuck out, but it turns out we don't get a year. We only get half a year. And now Sigurd is going to say that Deirdre has to just stay in the castle. So we have her like as a player unit, but she's not allowed to leave the castle because they've had a son in the time between now and then. Named Selif. And so we're having Shannon, who is a young boy that we rescued a couple missions ago, and also our wife, to stay at home to watch over the baby.
Sure, somebody has to.
Yes. Alright. Now it's a sort of a new chapter, so this will be a lot of like inventory management and arena spamming. Always the most fun part of this game. Let's see, is there anything else interesting going on these days?
I don't know. So, I was trying to think if I've done anything else. Well, what happened? Well, my wife and I started watching the new the Game of Thrones spin-off. House
House of
the Dragon.
Dragons.
Yeah, or House of Dragons. That's pretty good. Can't complain.
Alright.
Yeah, we finished Sandman. We already kind of talked about that. No, that's it. I got no more topics.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's it. The fuck are we gonna do?
We could do
We're gonna have to read
another.
Pixar facts.
We could do another criticism critique.
We have any saved up? Sure we do.
We could do more from the Festival of Hate. There's a lot on there.
Oh yeah.
If you go back, I'll let you pick one just to try this. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But go to the site and then go back to like on the link for the V for Vendetta one. There should be a link back to the like Festival of Hate catalog or whatever, and just see if there's any
Good ones.
ones that stand out to you as being potentially
Alright.
interesting.
All right, let me find. I gotta find the one. We've had a little bit of this issue before where we stream 2 days in a row, and it's like, oh,
We do tend to struggle more when it's 2 days in a row. Yeah.
Is it? Sorry, did you post it on the TNP Discord?
Yes, but I'm not sure which channel it was in.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Would it be either
Just gonna have to
planning or
look.
post, probably?
Right, the only 2 channels anyone ever posts. Oh, here. No, wait, that's Usiwa. Richard Pham's review. Oh yeah, that I was gonna say that No One Lives Forever review was like one of my favorites that we've read.
That definitely had some good moments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was very
The dainty feminine shoes and the
Yeah,
snow.
that was great.
And a certain French art based around visual movements or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Here it is.
That was a good one. I liked Top Gun. Did you see that Top Gun got nominated for Best Picture?
No, I watched. I did start to watch like Adam had YMS Adam had
Best
video
Picture
on Oscar
breakdown.
noms. Well, he had a video on Oscar nominations in general, but I was like, I just like wasn't interested enough to watch it. Past
Yeah.
a couple minutes.
Nobody cares about what the Oscars pick.
Yeah,
Basically, nobody reasonable.
yeah, I do like to watch like his Oscar, watch along thing, but
I hope Tar wins Best Picture just because it looks funny. If you go on the letterbox page for the movie Tar, the icon says "Let Tar Boxed," so that's cute.
oh yeah, it is fun. Well, it's gonna win. It'll win the Letterboxd awards.
You think Everything Everywhere All at Once will win Best Picture?
Honestly, probably yes.
I think when it was Parasite, I was pretty confident that would win because there was just so much hype around it that I think the Oscars would have made themselves look kind of bad if they didn't pick it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't remember what else. I never remember like what other movies are around. So it's like, didn't bother me that one.
Yeah. I didn't watch any movies from 2022, so I can't comment on what wins. What deserves to win or not.
I mean, of movies up this year, I watched I watched Top Gun and I watched Everywhere All at Once.
Yep. Those are both nominated.
Exactly. And I watched like The Northman this year, but I don't know if that came out.
I think that's nominated as well.
Okay, so maybe it did come out this year. I don't remember. Yeah, I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is actually probably at least up there with legitimately good movie. Plus, it has the that Parasite adjacent hype.
Yes.
East Asian, good movie.
It's just the level of like almost hive-minded hype that I've seen is only really like for those 2 movies are the only ones that have reached quite that level of it in recent years.
Yeah, it's kind of like not to like gatekeep, but it is like people who have no knowledge of like Korean movies just like latched onto Parasite. I mean, that's not a bad thing, but it was kind of annoying. Where it's like the only thing anyone's ever talking about. It's like
I think them getting so high on like the letterbox charts has to do with a lot of people who aren't as snobby or whatever watching them, and then them also being able to like appeal to the snobs as well. Because all the people on Letterboxd haven't, like the casual Letterboxd users or whatever, that all went out to watch it because it was hyped, all gave it 5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
And then snobby ones gave it at least, like, often gave it 4 or 5 stars. 4 to 5, I suppose, range.
Right. Sorry, I can't. Oh, Vessel of Hate?
It's called Festival of Hate.
Oh, see, I misheard you. Couldn't find the
Just
link,
look up
but
V for Vile.
Well, I have V for Vile pulled up, but it's on a different website. It's on hoodedutilitarian.com.
Yeah, but it should have like a
Oh, okay, I see. I'll find it.
a link
I
back
thought it was
to
a
the
different website.
Festival of Hate thing. No, it's not a different website. It's just like a feature on the Hooded Utilitarian website.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, all right. Let's complicated. Browse my topic. It's hard to find, dude. This festival, it doesn't advertise this festival very well. He mentions it, but I don't think it's linked.
It's just a link.
Maybe I'll find it. He like whatever. Maybe it's at the bottom. Oh, okay. Index of Hate at the very bottom. Here we go. Okay, all right. Got
it. There we go.
Okay, finally. Let's see what else.
Yes, this will all be worth it.
What else we got? Could there be a worst comic of all time? What's this? Now I have to find. Oh, here's why I hate Watchmen. This could, on the topic of Alan Moore. How about this?
Continue finding and bashing Alan Moore.
Yeah.
I think there's a mouse one as well.
Yeah. There is. I have not read Mouse, but I know that's a hot take to hate that.
It is indeed a hot take, yes.
Oh, Spirou and Fantasio, racism for kids.
Yes, that's a strong contender as well.
Okay. Let's start. Watchmen is short, so let's start with that, and then we can do Spirou, maybe.
All right.
All right, so this is by Consuela Francis, Why I Hate Watchmen. When Noah announced this hate fest, I knew immediately that I'd write about Watchmen. What was less clear to me was why. What is it about this book that irks me so much? Why do I silently roll my eyes every time someone starts waxing poetic about Moore's genius? The truth is, I should adore Watchmen. It's a comic book loving English major's wet dream, multi-genre, intertextual, metafictional. So much of what people identify as masterful in Watchmen matches up nicely with the things that gives me incredible intellectual joy in other books, the kinds of things I try to get my students excited about in class. Plus, it has superheroes in it. Despite the entrance fee to the Comic Scholars Club being a complete disdain for all things superhero, I really love a good superhero story well told. So Watchmen should be a perfect storm of all things that fill me with geeky intellectual joy. The only problem, I really, really dislike this book. So much so that I've never managed to read all of it, despite numerous tries. My husband bought Watchmen for me the first year we were married. The comic books moved into my house along with my new husband. I was hooked, powerless to resist the heady combination of new love and Spidey angst. While I would eventually develop my own comic book preferences, I quickly began to favor alternative, autobiographical, talky, snarky books. My comic reading tastes have been forever shaped by the books my husband loves best, Marvel's superheroes. He loves Spider-Man, so do I. He adores the Avengers, so do I. He thinks Kirby is a genius, so do I. He finds the X-Men insufferable, so do I. So when he and every fanboy I knew said I should read Watchmen, I fully expected to love it. But I didn't. Not even a little. I figured it was me, that there was some context or history or secret code I just wasn't getting that prevented me from liking the book. Each time I've tried, when students ask about it in class, when the film came out, to write this piece, I have the same reactions. I find Watchmen dull, flat, and above all, pretentious. And I say this as a person who regularly tries to get students to see how funny Melville's Bartleby the Scrivener can be. First, it is ugly. So ugly. I get that aesthetic and artistic quality are in the eye of the beholder. I love Jeffrey Brown's and James Kalchaka's styles, and I wouldn't call them pretty at all. My students and I regularly have arguments about whether or not Charles Schultz could draw well. So yeah, I get that we can enjoy comics drawn in a bunch of different styles. But come on, people, you can't really enjoy looking at this book. It's visually crowded, the people are unattractive, the colors are weird. And yes, the visual style is working actively to help tell the story of the ugliness of the world. I get it. It doesn't make the book any more pleasant to look at. I could let the ugliness slide, though, if the characters were in any way interesting. I feel no connection to these characters. I don't care about Dan Dryberg / Night Owl to trudge through his ornithological articles. Lori Jaspechik and Dr. Manhattan's relationship fails to induce any sympathy. Rorschach and Ozymandias are just dicks. I don't have to like characters to enjoy a story, but I do need to care about something about the narrative arc they travel. And in Watchmen, there's no single character whose life I care enough about to carry me through to the end. And don't get me started on that fucking pirate comic. Good God, people. Most of all, I find the book's seeming raison d'etre, a critique of the superhero concept, just plain annoying. I just don't buy that superhero stories are necessarily fantastic, that enjoying a superhero story makes you necessarily suspect, that we should always be suspicious of do-gooders. The cynicism of the story, and frankly the cynicism of many of its fans, is just plain tiresome. Not artful, not clever, not profound, just tiresome. Like the hipster slouching in the corner, smoking American spirits, harshing on the squares, I find Watchmen guilty of trying way too hard. So let's make a deal. I promise to nod politely whenever you start to gush about this book, as long as you don't expect me to join in.
Is that the whole
All right.
article?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was fine. Like, she said what she didn't like and generally explained it. Could have gone into more depth. It's a fairly short review. I do feel like a lot of things she didn't like were, I don't know, petty. I mean, she's welcome to not like the art style and colors and such, but she even acknowledges that it's intentional to tell the story of the ugliness of the world. And then it's just like, but it's still bad because I don't like looking at it.
Yeah. There's a part where Rorschach, it reminded me when she said the character people are unattractive. It reminds me of when Rorschach first is unmasked and he is quite ugly. But that was very much intentional for the story because, you know, it's supposed to be this big intrigue of like, oh, what's Rorschach look like behind the mask? He's this mysterious, you know, brooding Avenger, and then he just turns out to be this pretty plain, like, unattractive ginger man. I think we could kind of beat the whole same drum again of like, I think it would have benefited the review from an argumentation standpoint if there were, you know, if she had cited story moments that led her to not feel invested in the characters and stuff like that, instead of just sort of saying, I don't like the characters and moving on with that.
Yeah.
The way the review reads now, it's kind of like, well, fair enough that you didn't like the characters, but I don't really feel in any way convinced or inclined to rethink my perspective on whether they were good, well-written characters based on what you said there.
Yeah, I'm kind of like glimpsing through the comments here just to see like other thoughts on the subject, and I think a lot of people actually disagree with her. And even this guy calls her out, where he was like, I was hoping someone else would have written this because at least they would have read the whole thing. I'm sort of getting tired of reading critiques where the person hasn't even read the whole book.
That would help, yeah.
And I think like a lot of people are agreeing. The thing that people seem to agree with, and I agree with too, is like one of her main takeaways is nobody should be forced to read something they don't like. And I think that part of the issue of why she hates it so much is that she would try to force herself to read it so much.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't click with her, but she hasn't read enough of it to even like form a good opinion of like the purpose of the book or anything like that. Like
she doesn't say how far she got into it.
That's true. I guess that's true. Yeah.
She could have gotten quite far, but then again, she also could have stopped after like the first chapter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. most of the comments are kind of just similar to us, just lamenting about the fact that she didn't go more in depth or explore different things, and mainly because she can't, because she did not read enough. Yeah, so that was a little disappointing. I do wish that that
I think the V for Vendetta review was better if we are going to compare the two.
Yeah,
and I think I have read the Spear and Phantasm one, and that one's also better. So this is the weakest review I read from the Index of Hate so far. Because those are the ones do have more specificity and go into depth and are more convincingly argumentative than this one is, which kind of admits those aspects. That is kind of its biggest fault.
Ooh, I think the mouse one might be kind of edgy. That could be a good one. Oh yeah, so well, you want to do the mouse one since you've read the Spiru one?
I do want to cover the Spiru one eventually, but maybe we'll try to do it on one of your streams so that I can read it out.
Yeah, that works. All right, so mouse takes on Gluey Tart takes on mouse. This is by Kinukitty. I hate mouse. Let me count the reasons why. I'm not allowed to hate it, for one thing. I always find that annoying. I'm not crazy about portraying Jews as mice and Poles as pigs and so on. I won't go into why. Better critics than I have already beaten that horse. Okay, I can't help it. Okay, I was going to say, I hope she does go into it. That's the point of this review. Okay, I can't help it. Nazis were humans who killed Jews who were also human. People killing other people, not one species killing another species, not cats hunting mice, for heaven's sake. Also, pigs. It doesn't really matter to me whether he meant that insult or not. That's the kind of thing that happens when you start getting cute about genocide. I'm full-on offended by Prisoner on the Hell Planet and Spiegelman's tossing the word murder around. The story is about his mother committing suicide, and he says, "You murdered me, Mommy, and left me here to take the rap." He also calls his father a murderer for burning his mother's journal without letting Art see them. I could write essays about each of these topics, so I'm going to stay focused for me, my main problem with Mouse, which I believe that it's morally wrong to batten on the pain of your people. Yeah, I know. Postmodernism, I'm aware of it, and narratives help us understand atrocities like the Holocaust. And the children of Holocaust survivors experience their parents' memories in a unique way. And how is it wrong for a writer to work out his demons by telling a story? Plus, mice are cute. Everyone loves mice. I don't actually disagree with any of that, except maybe postmodernism, but there isn't much I can do about postmodernism. My objective is to Spiegelman grabbing his parents' painful past and carrying it in a fireman's hold through an obstacle course of writerly tropes to emerge triumphant, a Pulitzer Prize clutched in one hand and an Eisner Award in the other, proud and satisfied about making the graphic novel serious and literary and worthy of a couple million graduate theses. He's excessively eager to define himself by his relationship to his parents. That is, my fucked up parents fucked me up, damn it. And who can argue? It's the Holocaust. Can't argue with the Holocaust. Of all the writers who have ever written about how their lives are ruined by their damn crazy parents, anyone laying claim to the Holocaust hits the mother lode. It renders anyone's personal trauma unassailable and worthy of interest. I'm going to assume Spiegelman undertook this project as a way to come to terms with his own pain, understandable motive, although the subsequent publication of more Mouse and the egregious in the shadow of no towers might make one wonder. If one were mean and lacking in tact about the relationship between Spiegelman's career and his willingness to schmaltz up whatever major tragedy lands at his doorstep. Maybe it's a chicken and the egg thing. He could be attracted to these themes because of the way his psyche was constructed by his damn crazy parents. Either way, he thought it was okay to publish a story about mice, Jews, and cat Nazis, but he almost certainly didn't expect everyone in the world to decide it was a brilliant masterpiece. It probably means I shouldn't hold it against him, but this sort of thing reminds me of people who write true crime books. Beyond the look at me, be impressed by my pain thing, and isn't that why God invented psychiatrists? I can't help thinking that putting murder out there for profit and some measure of fame, because we don't publish things unless we hope people will read them, is wrong. Is it more or less wrong to exploit your own tragedy than someone else's? On the one hand, you have more of a motive than simply latching onto a story that might sell, although it is part of your motive, otherwise you'd keep a diary or something. You're working through something that is, in some sense, yours. On the other hand, your own family becomes grist for the mill, and even if they acquiesce, you're still using them. I already hear the collective grumble of irritation saying it isn't exploitation if it's art. Art transmutes exploitation into something else, something with a higher purpose, and I believe that too, to a point. What rises to the level of art? This isn't the time or place to throw down on what art is or isn't, thank God, but I don't subscribe to the 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong theory. You know, everyone else thinks it's the best comic ever, so if you don't think so, you can't call yourself a sentient being, and you also suck donkey balls. Well, you say sweeping metaphor. I say somebody get me some damned insurance so I can see my psychiatrist and tell them how my parents fucked up my life. Now that I've actually read the thing, now, not that I've actually read the thing, mind you. Oh my God. I don't want to, I don't need to, and you can't make me. Does this mean I'm not allowed to have an opinion? Yes. No, it does not. I have picked up Mouse countless times, willing the book to do anything but annoy me. If you're an educated, intelligent reader and accidentally let it out that you sometimes read comics, everyone assumes you love Mouse. They start talking about it as if it had performed 3 perfect miracles. And because, 1, I hate to disappoint. 2, I hate to miss out on things. I pick it up, I read a few pages, I put it back. I actually have a similar relationship with Gravity's Rainbow, which I used to keep with my horror books, except I think Gravity's Rainbow really is art. I've done this countless times, and I've probably read about half the book over the last 20 years. I've also read a certain number of essays and blog posts and listened to a certain number of conversations and rolled my eyes at a certain number of over-carbonated bookstore recommendations. The brilliance of Mouse would not coalesce for me if I could but force myself to read those missing pages. The Poles would still be characterized as pigs, the Holocaust would still be ugly, and the book would still stink of entitled self-pity. That was awful. I hasn't even read it. That was just like the most misguided, presumptuous moralizing. And that's the entirety of her review.
Yeah, I think the central argument that the whole review is founded on is really very weak. Is that it's somehow wrong to write a story about generational trauma because that's exploiting the memory of your parents or something? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, she comments on the same thing about true crime, is that you shouldn't write about crime because crime is bad and you can't exploit it at all, I guess. I don't know. But I guess if you're going to write a full-length review on something you haven't read, you have to just like waffle around for a while before.
Apparently, she's read parts of it, but again.
Okay, yeah, true.
Yeah, that was
yes.
That was quite weak.
She's also read parts of Gravity's Rainbow and has concluded that that one's good.
Yes. Actually, that reminds me, I have my copy right next to me. Maybe we could, I guess maybe not, since it's me playing, but we will get around to reading that for stream content one of
We'll try that one day, yeah.
So what do you think, if anything, on the whole question of what constitutes art that is posed by the review?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. She doesn't really address it. She just gives an example of something she says is art and something that isn't. She does give examples of why.
Yeah, apparently Mouse is not art, but I don't really understand why, according to the review, that is the case.
Specifically, the review says this isn't the time or place to talk about that. Okay. So there is no answer offered here. But yeah, it is clear that Mouse is not art. For some reason. And she does seem to agree with the fact that it's not exploitation if it's art. Just concluding that this isn't art, so it is exploitation. That's the entirety of that paragraph. And she has a problem, yeah, with the exploitation aspect. Like you're using your family's, like your family allowing you to use their tragedy doesn't mean you're not using them, and it's still bad. So there's that. I guess like she's the final judge. They can't decide. It's up to me. I don't know. I do like one of the comments who also reviews it. So I've been away from Hooded Utilitarian for a while, and I'm thinking this review may not have been the best way to reintroduce myself. How am I supposed to read this? This piece is so desperate, so needy, so frantic in its desire to be taken as daring, all the while winking and parenthesizing itself away from anything that might resemble a real argument. Yeah, you should take a look at it yourself, because like there's constant like little parentheses and quotes, and just like every time she starts to make a point, she kind of sarcastically sidles away from it. Anyway, indeed, by the end, I start to wonder if I'd been duped by an elaborate parody of a spluttering hate review. How else to account for an essay that begins with expressions of the very entitled self-pity? I hate it because I'm not allowed to hate it, that I ultimately attacks. How else to excuse a review that worries about how one isn't allowed to argue with the Holocaust? It spends much of its time griping about how the book in question doesn't take genocide seriously enough. How else to describe a piece of writing that wants to both attack and to embrace the idea that art, or rather real art, can transmute tragedy into something else, or that wants to celebrate the fact that the book remains unread, take that book, and then wishes to walk back that claim a few pages pages at a time. Hence my confusion. But above all, I don't know what else to make a review that is so insistently about the reviewer, even as its main claim, perhaps its only claim against Maus, seems to be that Spiegelman, intentionally or not, made the Holocaust all about him. Critic, hate thyself. I think that's a good critique.
That was a pretty good
this.
criticism critique, yeah.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah, well, that's not.
Yes,
That was like, yeah.
I didn't realize the quality of the reviews on this index were so inconsistent.
Yeah, we started off pretty strong with the V for Vendetta, which was a hot take, but generally
a pretty
decent.
well written piece. Probably
Yeah.
the most well written piece we've done on criticism critique so far. And the
Better
Spiru one
than,
is pretty strong as well, actually. So I thought they were all from like experienced professional reviewers, and then these last two ones we've covered today have been somewhat of a disappointment, I must say.
Yes. Let's see. We should probably wrap up soon, but I can look and see if some ideas for next time as well in this list. If there's any decent ones.
Okay.
It's hard to tell because the titles don't necessarily have the name of the.
There's a funny thing that's like, I think at the very, very bottom, it's like, what's it called? The worst comic of all time? And then if you click on it, it's just like a picture of one panel from that comic.
Yeah. Well, there's the open thread is Cerebus, the worst comic ever. Yeah,
that's it.
Oh yeah, it's just like we didn't have anyone write about it, but I thought I'd just open up a thread and people can have at it if they wish.
Yeah, and then it's just like a panel from Cerebus.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, and then it's in the comments, which are,
true.
Again, that's the point of it. But the comments are also varying in quality and opinion.
You do get some pretty substantial discussion in the comments of this.
There is an article, which is, could there be a worst comic of all time? And the answer is no. And then they go on to explain why.
Yes, that was something that interested me because I on the webcomics wiki they kind of proposed the idea that Sonichu is the worst webcomic of all time, at least.
Sonichu's great. But only ironically. So you have to really be careful about your criteria.
It really is quite terrible.
It is, yeah, it's horrible.
It's a pretty good candidate if one were to try and find a candidate for like the worst comic of all time. There would be reason to suggest that it is Sonichu.
Okay.
Despite really having quite a bit of opposition, I guess, to the culture of stalking Christian. I think that's actually a very perverse thing.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Christian has been...
There is actually value to reading Sonichu as an example of something that's like so utterly inept that it's instructive how bad it is.
Sure. Yes. I don't know. I think it could be... you can take it as a tale of heroic inspiration, you know? Like, Sonichu always prevails, and this is such a great...
Oh, but then it just gets, like, really, really homophobic and shit, so it's like, it's really inept, and then it also becomes hateful or whatever later on.
Christian is definitely... Not to say that's not...
And there's also the part where he, like, traces his cock or something for a panel, and that comes...
That's art.
Certainly doesn't match with the tone and target audience of other parts of Sonichu.
Does it have a target audience? I mean, I guess so, but really the target audience is Christian.
True.
But, yeah, no, Christian has definitely been, aside from the stalking, taken advantage of by being like actively groomed to be like more hateful. Not to say that's not his
That's
opinion
true,
as well,
yeah.
but there's also that.
It's all such a fucking mess with Christian at this point.
Yeah. Now he's in jail.
Yes.
Or she, I guess. I can't tell if they're actually trans or not.
But didn't he say that he only became trans because he thought it would help him get laid?
Sure, but that doesn't. I mean, it's a bad reason, but could still be trans.
Well, that seems to indicate that he does not experience genuine gender dysphoria.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's. I think that the hot take now is that's not like there is no criteria for being trans, including actually having gender dysphoria,
I guess so.
because it would be like exclusionary to say that.
I have one trans friend who is like really into Christian and keeps referring to him as a him.
Okay,
That
there you
doesn't
go.
mean
That-
anything though.
No, it solves my issue. Yeah, the comic one actually seems to be at least interesting to read. It's another one we can add to the list.
The worst
It's
comic.
fairly lengthy. Yeah, the worst comic ever. It's a good follow up on our previous bad web comic wiki discussions.
We did Sinfest. Was that the only bad webcomics wiki review we read?
Didn't we? I thought we might have done another one, but I actually genuinely don't remember.
Can't remember either.
I can. Yeah.
Seems plausible to me that we might have done another one, but I can't remember what it was, if so.
We looked at. We talked about a bunch, you know, like BG Cats, and but we didn't do like I don't think we did in-depth stuff on those. Dresden Codex on there.
Yes, that's right.
We talked about Least I Could Do. Cyanide and Happiness. Yeah, maybe Sinfest was like the big one. Okay. That could be fun too. Another dive into.
Yeah,
another
there's
one.
definitely potential there.
There's a lot of bad webcomics. I wonder how Sinfest is doing. I kind of gave up on that. I mean, for good reason.
I think she became Christian. What's her name? Monique became Christian.
Oh, as her solution to her like ennui.
No, she kind of became Christian.
Okay.
The comic just kind of continually reflects the seemingly quite rapidly changing philosophical viewpoint of Tatsuya Ishida at this point. Which now is Christian, I guess. Well, it was like he was kind of flirting with the American right in general for the last little while, and there's a one comic where the year 2022 asks like Monique if there's something waiting for her beyond the grave or whatever, and she says yes there is, like a man in the sky or whatever. So
okay.
Yep. Apparently Monique is Christian now.
Cool.
That's the latest on Sinfest, I think.
Yeah. I'm just like scanning back to see if there's anything funny, but I mean there's everything funny, but like ironically.
I got like quite behind on it and then caught a little bit recently, and I think the most noteworthy thing I saw was the Christian thing.
Sure.
The apparent conversion to Christianity of Monique.
It's like the handmaidens for like fucking forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of stuff with them lately.
Popular. All right. Well, I want to see more stuff about Biden just because of how pointless that is, but I guess not.
I think there probably
those are,
is
like,
one
kinda
or two
funny.
in there.
Oh, I don't know. I don't see. But
It does have a tag system and a search function on the website.
that's yeah.
So there probably is a Joe Biden tag you can look to. You want to just read the Joe Biden related Sinfests?
That's see, looks like I've actually seen most of them. There's only like 3 that I haven't from a while ago. All right. Well, one of them's from 2008, which that can't be right.
With Joe Biden?
Actually, no. Yeah. Well, I don't. Oh yeah, it just mentions.
He was a
the words
senator
vice
at
president.
the time. Or vice president or something, yeah.
But Biden himself is not actually mentioned. Oh.
I see. Have you ever tried looking at the Sinfest website without ad block turned on?
Ooh. Well, I can't. I have. I'll turn my phone. I have network wide ad block.
It's
on my data.
There are a lot of ads on that.
I mean,
website.
dude's gotta make money somehow. He's probably get a
Yes.
sponsorship from like
He
some
does have a
right-wing,
Patreon, but there's not too much money on that.
Yeah. He keeps changing opinions too much. People to consistently donate.
I think that might be part of the issue, yes. I think most of his old Brad Fam audience is gone now because he's now, like right wing or something.
Yeah. Yeah, there are ads. Small business line of credit from MX.
I think when I
No,
saw
he
it, there
got
was
kicked
one.
off of Patreon.
Oh no.
Oh no. He
Rest
gives
in
alternate
peace.
platforms to support him on.
Yes. There are certainly Patreon alternatives out there for people.
Yeah, well, that sucks for him.
That's Invest for you.
Wonder what specific thing he said that got kicked off.
I like to think it was also for the Woman Man comic.
That's true. That's a heavy hitter as far as long running consequences.
We did get restored to Twitter fairly quickly. Probably because of Elon Musk. Elon Musk
Yeah,
brought
that's
all the
right, it doesn't
funny
matter
people
now.
back.
Yeah. Musk wants us $7.
Who's the funniest person he brought back? I think it was Trump, but I don't think Trump actually went back to Twitter posting, so that's too bad.
I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything or any people complaining about him. So yeah, it doesn't look like.
He brought Jordan
I don't know.
Peterson back, who's been a very prolific tweeter ever since then. So he's
Okay, so he might be the funniest. I don't really keep up, so
he's reasonably funny.
yeah. Since he's gone off the deep end, he's quite funny. I don't know if he'll ever reach the heights of that deranged speech, but maybe, you know, who knows.
That Ellen Page one, Elliot
Yeah,
Page
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
That was quite funny. That had some funny moments in it, at least.
I like to think that there was a surge in Command and Conquer sales after that.
I think the funniest part was when he said, "Sorry, you'd rather die than delete his tweet."
Yeah. Yes. He said it's so like matter of fact.
Yes. That was quite funny. And then I forget there were other good lines, but I can't remember. Oh, up yours, woke moralists, of course, is the classic.
Classic.
So I'm grinding up, what's her name? Raquesis, because there's a kind of a good exploit you can do, which is that there's their return staff in this game, which warps someone back to the home castle.
Okay.
And it gives quite a bit of experience when you use it, so you can just, like, have someone there as a return bitch who, like, comes out of the castle every turn, and then she just warps them back into it. And, she gains a lot of experience that way. So this way you can quickly grind her up to Master Knight, and she'll get a mount, and she'll get, access to new weapons and high promotion bonuses. And she also becomes a mounted healer, which is a good thing to have in the later chapters.
I have to hop off myself.
Okay.
So maybe we can.
I will finish
see her
this turn of Fire Emblem, which is quite close to being done, and then we'll save it and stop the stream if that works.
Sounds good. We can see her be a Master Knight next time.
Yes. He has to kill a couple of these horse archers, and then I think, like, Lex has to go kill a bandit or something, and that's basically the turn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fuck.
How far into the game you think we are? Just
this is chapter 3. I think it goes up to chapter 10. But the pacing of the game is a little bit lopsided, I guess, because you tend to like be trying to catch up units like Azel and Lachesis earlier, and then once they get to their promotion, you don't have to worry about that anymore, and you can just kind of like slam through the enemies more.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this chapter will be like grinding Raquesis to get up to Master Knight, and we'll be trying to get Azel promoted and maybe Lewyn as well. And then once those three are all done, I probably just will like leave all the lower level characters in the base and just like run out with my higher level guys and smash things.
Sure.
But we'll see all that next time because we're concluding now.
Yes. All right. Yeah, so next we'll be back with Nier Automata, continuing that. And then next time on Fire Emblem, we'll be doing all of that you just said. So
Yep.
This is a cakewalk.
This is a cakewalk.